You know, when you look at just the history at Sebring, how long, the 59th running, the types of manufacturers and teams and drivers, you know, it's a very prestigious group to be a part of.
Sebring is magical but really tough.
It's Sebring. It's tough and it's historical. Mega.
Traffic, and traffic.
This year with 58, 59 cars, it is really going to be tough mentally.
Sebring is intense.
It's a fantastic test for all the teams that go to Le Mans.
Because the 12 hours at Sebring, I think it's tougher than the 24 hours of Le Mans.
Yeah, Sebring's old school. Just amazing history.
Rough and fast. That's what Sebring's all about.
It's part of this race that you make your car work in the bumps, and you can't, tough luck.
If you come to one race in America, come to Sebring. It's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, it's tough, it's rugged, it's grueling, it's endurance, it's everything that this series stands for. It is, when you win this race, you have won something good.
ESPN and the American Le Mans Series, the global leader in green racing, are proud to bring you the 59th annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida. This special ABC telecast is presented by Chevrolet and America's premier sports car, Corvette. Fans have flocked to Sebring International Raceway since 1952 in the initial running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. They've done the same in 2011, and why would they not? The weather is absolutely spectacular, and the field of drivers today, the competition, it will be intense. Hello everyone, I'm Brian Till, and welcome to the ESPN family of networks coverage of the 2011 American Le Mans Series. Very fortunate enough to have with me in the booth two drivers who have won Sebring before, Bill Adam and Johnny O'Connell. And Johnny, 5 different classes of cars out there today, 2 of those GT or production-based cars, and you have won this race in a GT Corvette before. What does it take to win the Sebring 12 Hours in a GT class car?
Boy, Brian, I mean, it takes preparation, luck, a zillion things, but you know, the GT category is where these manufacturers, Porsche, BMW, Ferrari, Corvette, you go down the list, you know, this is where they're investing their time, their energy, their money to develop cars for the future. Today, in order for these guys to win, they've got to push hard every single lap, but on the pit stops, gas, fuel, tires, go. If you can do that for 12 hours, you have a good shot at winning at Sebring.
Now, Bill Adam has won this event in a GT car, and you've driven it many times in prototypes as well. Bill, the prototype drivers today, the faster cars, they're going to have a lot of traffic to deal with.
This is the American Le Mans version of Clash of the Titans because we got the 2 biggest, Audi versus Peugeot. There is incredible corporate pressure on these guys to win and carry the momentum on to the 24-hour Le Mans. Even though Audi is running the old R15, they're up against the brand new Peugeot. They both want desperately to win. But the big challenge is how to get by the GT cars who are going to be racing in clumps. They've got to do it, they've got to be aggressive, but be very, very careful not to lose any body parts from contact.
Plenty of drama today and plenty of stories as well. For more stories from the pits, let's go to the first of our pit reporters, Rick DeBrule.
Well, you might say it's the old against the new here at Sebring. It's the new Peugeots against the old Audis. Alexander Vert's going to be one of the guys in the new Peugeots. Is the car ready? I mean, you got it back in August. Have you done enough testing? Is it going to last the 12 hours?
Well, that's the question, and that's why we are here. We want to find the answer here in Sebring. I mean, we are here. So far, the free practice went good, but you never know. 12 hours of Sebring is such a tough race to man and machine, but we want to test the machine mainly for preparing for Le Mans.
All right, they're ready. They say they can prepare for Le Mans and win here. We'll see if they can do that, especially when you consider the Audi is an old car that's very well sorted. Now let's go down to the GT pole winner with my colleague here on pit road, Jamie Howe.
In 2010, Jimmy Bruni won this event in the familiar F430 Ferrari. In 2011, he returns to defend that victory with the new team, AF Corsa. Jimmy has proven to have the speed. Jimmy, you put the car on pole yesterday, but what advantage is that going to give you over the course of a 12-hour race?
No, obviously we knew this car, it was very valuable and it was quite quick. Last year we showed that we won a race. So this year, unfortunately, we didn't receive the new car. The team didn't receive a new car in time for the America race. So we prefer to come here in a safe way. And I hope it works. For us, obviously, we have to think about it. We have to follow the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup because it's our goal. So and if it comes something more, we take it.
It's going to be a tough battle. Starting right behind the Ferrari on the grid is Corvette Racing, the number 04 car, and Kelly Stavist is with them.
Well, Jamie, it's been a very busy offseason for all these teams as they prepare for the biggest race of the season. Certainly no exception here at Corvette. Oliver Gavin will start the 12 hours behind the 04 car. And Oliver, of all the changes and improvements to this new C6R, what will be your greatest asset here at Sebring?
Well, I think the car is going to be fantastic. You know, we were very happy with the way testing's gone. We were strong here at the sort of warm-up test about a month ago, and it's been a challenging week for us. But you know, we're pleased to be second on the grid, and you know, great to be on the grid here. This is Chevrolet's 100-year anniversary, so proud to be part of that team. And proud to be taking the fight to all these other manufacturers. Ferrari's obviously on the pole, but BMW's right behind us, and you know, there's plenty of other Porsches and Ferraris all snapping at our heels. So it's going to be a tough 12 hours, 56 cars on the grid. It's going to be a real battle.
While this 04 Corvette starts second, its sister car, the 03, will start ninth.
Well, the drivers will not only be battling each other, they're going to have to battle this very challenging Sebring International Race Circuit. Let's have Bill Adam and Johnny O'Connell take us for a lap in the Porsche track description.
3.7 miles of concrete here, but 17 corners wrapped in here, and none more important than this ultra-fast turn one. It's a wide corner as you start into it at 135 miles an hour, but watch this. As this car leaves the pits beside us, the track narrows up.
Bill, you finish that, you go through 3, 4, and 5 third gear corners leading onto the long back straightaway into probably the best overtaken area on the racetrack, turn 7. It's a second gear corner. You get through it nice, cleanly, accelerate, back up through the gears.
Now our next corner of importance, relatively easy. It's only a 90-degree right-hander, but critically important because that's the corner leading out of the straight. You got to be very careful. Tight to the apex here, full power. Up ahead, the potential of 190 miles an hour. You must carry speed.
That, Bill, leading us into turn 17. Another fast corner, but very, very bumpy. These guys are in 6th gear. Hard on the brakes here, down to 4th gear, maybe 3rd gear for some of these cars. But watch and you'll see just how bumpy it is on this racetrack. 10 hours into the race, those are the bumps that are ripping your head off your neck, and you're up, back through the gearbox, going past start, finish, hopefully looking down and seeing a great lap time. There is no lap on the planet like Sebring.
5 different classes of cars will be attacking this racetrack today. Take a look at the pole sitters in each of those 5 classes. We've already heard from the Le Mans Prototype 1 and GT pole sitters. For more on LMP2 poles, let's head down to Rick DeBruhl.
So LRE, we're the fastest guy in the P2 class, but you got a lot to contend with. You got faster cars coming up on you, and you got to worry about those slower cars. How do you handle traffic here at Sebring?
Yeah, so traffic is one of the most difficult thing on this track and on this race because we are 57 car, we have nearly 15 car or 10 or 15 car quicker than them, quicker than us, and a lot of cars slower than us. So the thing is trying to manage this traffic problem, avoid all the situation, the crazy situation in the mid lane, in the middle of the corner, because here you can have a lot of trouble getting in the corner because there is so much car. The crew cannot see always with the yellow flag and everything, so it's very difficult for the driver. So the most difficult thing is try to look at the track and look at the mirror at the same time.
And that's not easy to do, but the Nissan Signatech can do its best. Jamie's up there with one of the cars that are going to be coming up on this car fast.
Well, the 2010 champions Highcroft Racing returns to Sebring, but this time with a brand new car. It does not have much track time going into the race today, but Simon Pagenaud, you guys have a fantastic team behind you. What are the expectations for the race?
Well, I think we might create some surprise. We did have the qualifying we were expecting. We had a slight little issue. But the car is running fine. This morning we were P3 while we were running in the warm-up. The car is back together. It's you know, the car's been loaded from the truck a week ago. We haven't had much testing, but the car is reliable. And for the 12 hours Sebring, it's a very important thing.
Another old team returning with a new car is down with Kelly.
Simon Pagenaud, his Highcroft team. Remember, they have won the prototype championship the last 2 years. 1 year in the LMP1 category and last year in the LMP2 category. Last year, it was the team Muscle Milk who won the LMP2 category at Sebring. They're back this year. Kelly?
Well, Lucas Luhr is a 5-time winner at Sebring, but this is his first time here with Muscle Milk Racing, and they've just stepped up into an LMP1 program. They're a bit off the pace from those diesel-powered cars, so how can you overcome that over the course of 12 hours?
Well, first of all, I have to say the car is running pretty good. We are closer than we expected against the diesels, and of course, with that many cars on the field, I think we can expect 1 or 2 yellows. So I think we are in pretty good shape, and we try to tease them a little bit and see where we end up.
What's it like to go against your old team at Audi?
Well, it's challenging. I mean, it's one of the best sports car teams in the world. There's no doubt about it. So going against them now, it's challenging, and but still, it's a lot of fun. We are here to race and do our best for the Muscle Milk team.
Well, they qualified 6th. We'll see how they fare.
Lucas Luhr certainly knows how to get the job done here at Sebring. He has 5 wins, plenty of excitement on tap here today, and bringing you the race call live. Let's send it to John Heindaw and Jeremy Shaw.
Well, looking down from the Porsche aerial cam, you can see it's a record crowd again here. And the first round of the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup here at the 59th Annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. A reasonable entry for the 7-round World Series, given the financial circumstances that the world of racing finds itself in. And it includes such classic venues as here at Sebring, Le Mans, part of a championship for the first time in living memory, and of course, Petit Le Mans at the end of the season. It's mainly for manufacturers. There's no driver titles. It's for manufacturers and teams only. Jeremy Shaw is alongside me. Delighted to welcome you back to the American Le Mans Series. What a field and what a potential race we have.
It's wonderful to be here, John, and there is so much history here and there is so much atmosphere, and it's just going to be a fantastic event this afternoon. I can hardly wait to get started. Let's go down to the pit lane with Jamie Howe.
Sebring rookie Dane Cameron, there's a lot of new today. You put the car on pole yesterday, but how are you prepared for the 12-hour event?
I think the whole Genoa team were pretty well prepared. They had a good run last year. Just one unfortunate incident in the middle of the race kind of cost them finishing a little bit further up, but I think we have a really strong core group of drivers, and with the way the traffic is going to play out, I think everyone's just going to have to be really smart and take their time. So I think we're going to play a little conservative and just kind of be a little on the safe side and make sure that we're there at the end. I think you can only really lose this race, so we'll play a little safe.
LMPC, one of the challenge classes, but GTC is the other.
And we'll try and pick up the pole sitter there in a moment. The car's out on the back straight. You know, Sebring has got such a special place in sports car and American motorsport history. It held the first ever sports car race, endurance race here in the United States back in 1950. In 1953, it was the first round of the first ever FIA World Sports Car Championship. And not just sports cars, but single-seaters. In 59, the first US Grand Prix was held here, and of course in 1966 it was the first Trans Am race, and 13 years ago in 1999 it was the first round of the then brand new American Le Mans Series. The race was won by a BMW V12 LMR. Tom Christensen was among the drivers, and he's gone on to win 4 more times, and Corvette and Porsche were the class winners. It was also the first time that the American sports car scene had a full race commentary on the internet with what was then called the American Le Mans Series Radio Web. And today we usher in a new digital era here at Sebring for the 59th Annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida, as we're live around the globe in sound and vision with AmericanLeMans.com and ESPN3.com. So the cars
entered here, 57 cars entered here at the 59th running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Right now, they're lined up and ready to go. Frank Montagny behind the wheel of the number 8 Peugeot, the blue and silver car to the outside, lighter mirrors, the Audi, the open-top prototype to the right, pilot
circuit. Don't ever change anything about this track. We love its personality. And the 2011 World Sports Car season is go, with Peugeot leading them through. Frank Montagny ahead of Mike Rockefeller. Alan McNish coming through straight away down the inside as he said he would to us. It goes straight up into second place. Rockefeller slightly held up there by his slightly more senior teammate, but it's a Peugeot of Montani that gets away. Alan McNish told us yesterday, I want this to be like Le Mans. I want to get among the Peugeots early on, and he's doing just that.
I think that was very well orchestrated by Audi there. I'm sure that Rockefeller knew that McNish was going to make that move down the inside. Rockefeller gave him some room, and then he defended the inside line going into turn 2 just to make sure that the Audis would be second and third. But look at this, the Peugeot trying to dive around the outside move, and he gets past Mike Rockefeller. Fabulous move there by Alex Wurz.
Yeah, Alex taking no prisoners either. Ironically, Alex and Alan living close together in Monaco. Very good friends out there, and I know that Julia and Kelly are tuned in on ESPN3.com and watching their respective husbands battle it out. Wonder what the atmosphere is like there, just as they're watching the battle at the head of the field for second and third position. Mike Rockefeller in fourth place, and Mike Rockefeller really repaying the trust that Audi showed in him. Remember that horrible accident that he had in his first lap out at Le Mans a few years ago, but he's come back, he's paid back Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich and basically said thanks very much. He's now a Le Mans winner. Now further back down the field, the American Le Mans Series reigning champions are Highcroft Racing. They've got a very new car. We've got a battle for second place coming down the Ullman Straight. Looks like McNish is having to defend on the right hand side of the circuit. Oh, the Peugeot doesn't have the horsepower.
No, that was interesting, wasn't it? We've got the 2010 Audi there with its restricted 5.5 litre engine against the brand new 3.7 litre turbocharged still Peugeot. And the Peugeot they were very evenly matched on the straight, but this time the Peugeot got a great run out of turn 17 and they're able to make the move down on the inside of Alan McNish into turn 1, and that is not what Alan McNish wanted to happen in these early stages of this motor race.
Don't forget the Peugeot running under the new regulations. That means the Audi has got a smaller restrictor, the engine can't breathe as well, that big 5.5 litre V12 diesel, and they've got a smaller fuel tank.
Yeah, they've lost about 150 horsepower compared to last year, John.
In the GT categories, let's not forget our out there at the moment, the Olive Gavin is leading that class in the 04, and we're on board the 55 BMW in third position with Dirk Vernon. That's Jimmy Bruni, the pole sitter, ahead of us. He's in second place, so where's the Corvette?
He's
Answer, right up the road. Ollie Gavin has made his escape early. There is the leading GT car, and the Corvette team coming off a fabulous result at the end of last season when they'd had really not a good season for them, but they stole away the victory at Petit Le Mans, and the momentum's carried on through the off-season.
Dead right. They joined the GT ranks midway through the 2009 season. They won a race in the first few races that they did in 2009, but as you said, last year they didn't win a race and didn't really look like winning a race until literally the final quarter of a mile of the 10-hour Petit Le Mans, when the Ferrari ran out of fuel.
Down in the pit lane, Rick de Bruyne with BMW.
Yeah, the big question mark for BMW really is going to be fuel. Speed's the easy part, catching up to those guys ahead. Coming into this race, they were concerned they didn't have enough fuel, that they were going to be able to get enough fuel mileage. Now, they think they've solved that on their perspective. What they don't know is how much better the Ferrari is, the new Ferrari. If the 458's getting better mileage, they may be behind the 8-ball when it comes to gas.
Well, at the moment, the BMWs are certainly showing the speed. Remember, they debuted this car not desperately successfully at Sebring a couple of seasons ago with one of the cars failing to ignite off the grid, but my goodness me, have they made inroads into performance and reliability since then, running a complementary program in Europe. BMW Motorsport, the entrant for this race and for the rest of the ALMS season, and there's a challenge for second position in the GT category here. They're going to have to go the long way around though, Jeremy.
He's not going to let that happen, is he? Super and very defensive driving there from Jimmy Bruni. He doesn't want to let the Corvette get away too far, but look at that. Oliver Gavin is turning some stunning laps there out front. He had a 2-second lead last time around. This time they come across the line, and the gap between first and second is 2.6 seconds. So at least a half a second a lap in this very, very early stages. But a great start by Oliver Gavin, and at the same at the front of the field, Frank Montani in the Peugeot. His gap also over the second place car, also 2 seconds. But the Peugeots are pulling away from the Audis now. Each of the first 2 laps, they're 2 seconds a lap quicker, John.
I'm very, very impressed though with Ollie Gavin's start. He lives in a sleepy little village, and the residents of Yardley Hastings in Northamptonshire are not being detrimental to you there. It's a tiny little place. Ollie lives just on the outskirts there in a lovely old farmhouse with a bit of land behind him. He goes out running around the country lanes of Northamptonshire, training for the London Marathon. This is on board with the Flying Lizards 0:45, and if you hear us talking a lot of zeros in the numbers this year, that's because in this race, the ILMC opener, also the opening round of the American Le Mans Series, all of the full season ALMS runners pick up a 0 at the beginning of their numbers, so they're easy to pick out on the timing and scoring if you're watching on AmericanLeMans.com on your computer while you're listening and watching to us on ESPN3.com or wherever in the world you're tuning in. Once again, we're bringing together the big family of sports car racing. Real privilege to be here. There's a real buzz about the place, and look at the infield. This is marvellous stuff, and look at that GT battle. We've been looking forward to seeing some racing and some competition all week. At this place, Jeremy, it never ever disappoints.
Oh, you're absolutely right there. And here on board here with the 6th place car right now, that is the Porsche of Jörg Bergmeister. So we've got a Corvette out front, we've got a Ferrari in 2nd place, got BMW's 3rd and 4th, the second of the Ferraris in 5th place, and here is that battle now for 2nd place in GT. Jimmy Bruni just holding off DIRK Werner.
Yes, and those two know each other quite well from racing in Europe, and the BMW is right in the wheel tracks. Almost couldn't see it there behind Jimmy Bruni's 51-430, and remember, that is last year's car effectively. The development stopped on that car in last season because they're waiting for the 458 Italia, but AF Corsa deciding that they got the car too late. There's a new 458, just 2 cars behind, and they've got, it's like the old days, isn't it, when, you know, at the start of the international season, the flyaway races, you took the tried and trusted machinery away to the big races abroad, and I think that might pay dividends this weekend. Yeah, that's certainly, you know, the 458 is still relatively new, and particularly the Risi Competizione car, the car that's running currently in 5th place with Jaime Mello. That car was only delivered a week or so ago. It was delayed in customs in Houston before it got to the team's base by about a week, so they lost a lot of preparation time there. Didn't really cost them any track time, but it certainly cost them preparation time, so they came here with a brand new car this week. And Jamie Howe is in the pit lane in the Ferrari pit.
I'm actually down with the Porsche guys, Jeremy, and in the Flying Lizard camp specifically, they're running the same 911 that they ran in years past. Now, where that's going to be an advantage here is we talk about the brand new 458 that's here this weekend. Well, the 911, it's tested, it's true, it's tried. They know that it can run the entire 12 hours of the event. And speaking with Flying Lizard, they believe that's going to be their advantage. They know that at the end of the race, it's going to come down to who has the fastest car, but you've got to get there first, and they're very confident in their Porsche machine making it.
Some changes as well that we hopefully won't get to straight away in the way that the safety car periods will be called as we look at the leader already in traffic in lap 4. And in significant traffic because that's the middle of the GT field for Frank Montani. Yeah, we'll explain the changes to the safety car period and how the pits open and close. It's a super tight pit lane here with only a couple of feet between each cars. 56 starters, remember. There's the new Paynos going through. Shot there, the Abruzzi Spirit of Le Mans. And Tom Milner's PTG team running that this weekend. It sounds, well, like the panels should. Big, rorty, ground pounding. And it's already turning out to be a fan favourite as the leader goes down the fastest part of the circuit, the Ullman Straight, the old runway here at Hendricks Airfield. And long, as I said at the start, long may this continue. Good to see the NGT Porsche there. That's a new GTC entrant, and good heads-up driving there as the leader comes through. Frank Montani carving his way through traffic, goes under the Michelin bridge with the 12'3" Bibendum. He looks good for 100 and something years old, doesn't he? As he heads into turn number 1, Montani for once will have a clear entry and exit from that super quick turn 1. Just out there on Thursday watching the cars go through, which I haven't seen for a long time close up, and my goodness me, you forget how quick these cars are around the circuit. Let's go further back down the timing and scoring monitor. The battle for 9th and 10th, Greg Pickett and Chris Dyson, 2 real stalwarts of the American Le Mans Series, and in the ALMS for the full season. Expect to see this through Long Beach, which is our next race, and right through the season. to Petit Le Mans, and Greg Pickett getting used to a new car and doing a great job. His first major competitive outing since that big accident at Mid-Ohio in the middle of last season, which put him out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that was a frightening crash that he had there, a brake failure at the end of the main straight, and he's made a great comeback this weekend. He's worked very hard on his fitness as Greg Pickett, and he is really looking strong and very much looking forward to this weekend. They had a fire in that car on Thursday. The team has done a fabulous job to get it back together again, and that car is running fast.
When we talked to Lucas Luhr, the third driver for that Muscle Milk team before the race, and we know that they're a little bit off the pace of those diesel-powered cars from Audi and Peugeot, but Klaus Graf actually gave me some insight as to how they could compensate for that. He said this Aston Martin is actually much easier on the tires, and their plan is to try to double stint their tires from the very beginning. In fact, Klaus told me that even as the temperatures get cooler, he and Lucas Luhr might try to triple stint their tires at night. He said they've tried it in testing and it worked, but they never faced temperatures quite this hot. We'll see if they can stick to that plan.
That would be a massive advantage if they could do that. All right, they're losing pace to the front of the field, but if they can keep the tyres on the car, remember in American Le Mans Series and ACO Racing, you can't put the tyres on while you're doing anything else, so that is a real time saving in the pit. Oh my goodness me, GT down at the hairpin, turn 7, right in front of Chateau Elan, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's your 4 leaders in GT. It's a street class, and this is a street fight.
This is exactly what we expected. We didn't expect Ollie Gavin to pull out that 2-second plus lead in the first couple of laps, but that didn't last very long, did it? Here is the rest of the field right with the Corvette right now.
So Ollie Gavin, the Englishman for Corvette, from Jimmy Bruni in the Ferrari, and then the 2 BMWs behind. BMW's hunting as a pack. Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan are the team that are effectively running these cars this year under the BMW Motorsport banner, and that is because, quite simply, they ended that way in the ILMC and they don't want to lose their team points. Oh, now there's the battle for 5th position. Now that's the 458. That's the 62 car, the Racing car behind them, and the 045. Got to remember to put that 0 in, Hindhoff. The 045 of Jörg Bergmeister in the tried and true Porsche 911. And he's getting a little bit of aerodynamic advantage there as Bruni has a look for the lead down into turn 17, and look behind as well, because it looks like Jörg Bergmeister's alongside. Gavin, I think, will hold on to this one, but he's going to have to defend going into turn 1, and the battle. See, we need more screens, we need split screens, we need 6 eyes. It's always happening in GT, and somehow it looks like Risi has hung on to that 5th position, but here comes Jimmy Bruni, last to the lip, breakers down the inside. That is an awesome move. It's by no means flat through there. And Ollie Gavin saying, no thanks mate, I'm quite happy in front. And he's got the inside line for turn 3. There's a touch, at least one touch there, but Jimmy Bruni hangs on, jukes it out. I said it was a street fight.
How long is this race, John?
12 laps, isn't it? That's what they've told Jimmy Bruni and Ollie Gavin.
Fabulous stuff. Great. This is exactly what we thought we were going to see. Look, 3 different manufacturers right here. Ferrari, Chevrolet, Corvette, and then the BMW. And what, maybe 200 yards farther back is the best of the Porsches as well. Farther back in the field, we've got the Ford GTs, we've got the Jaguars, we've got the Panos and Bruzzi. This is just a sensational field in GT.
Yeah, Aston Martin as well in GT, as well, of course, this year for the ILMC. So Jimmy Bruni leads, that's the pole sitter, back in what I'm sure he will think is his rightful position at the head of the field. I'm sure that he was slightly bruised by losing the lead at the start, because it was a fabulous lap in qualifying from Jimmy Bruni, and ex-Ferrari Formula 1 driver Giancarlo Fisichella, who's his teammate, was all over him. And you tell me that this doesn't mean anything to these guys. Fisichella's driven right at the top of motorsport, and he is loving this new challenge of GT racing in the American Le Mans Series in the ILMC. Still, that battle continues for 2nd place. Can't take your eyes off this for a second. BMW's new to America this year. We've seen these cars before, Jeremy, but there's some subtle but very important differences to the BMWs that we're seeing in the American races this year.
Yeah, just a lot of detail changes. The back end of the car in particular, the suspension is different, the bodywork is slightly different as well. And they're just, detail improvements on that car as they're going to do as they develop it. It's going to be a potent force. It was a very force last year on the podium every single race. He ended up winning the championship because of that horrible error by Ferrari running out of fuel on the final lap of the final race at Petit Le Mans. And that it didn't enable BMW to win the race, but what it did do is enable BMW to win that manufacturer's championship, and that is exactly what they wanted to do. That was their goal going into the beginning of the season.
Yeah, ironically, the only race of the year that they didn't get on the podium was Petit, and they won the championship there, didn't they? I mean, that's really odd. Oh, and Ollie Gavin slides wide through turn number 3, losing grip from the rear Michelin's there for a moment, and straight away, Dirk Werner says, "You don't have to ask me twice, thank you very much, Ollie," but he's going to make him go a long way. Talking to Ollie Gavin, it's going to be the last of the late breakers. And Ollie Gavin should about hold on to this, I think, Jeremy. He's going to have to give a little bit of racing room, and does. Do you know what? Great driving fight by both guys. No touch there. But Jimmy Bruni must be looking in the mirror of the AF Corsa Ferrari here and saying, guys, keep doing that, and I'll just disappear.
Yeah, no, that was very, very interesting, wasn't it? Nothing to choose, it seemed, between the Corvette and the BMW on the straight. But clearly, Oliver Gavin, I think he's struggling just a little bit after, what, 8 laps of the race.
You know, it looks like the old Corvette, but it's really a lot different. New engine package. In particular, they also have paddle shifters. One of the things they've been working with those paddle shifters is trying to figure out how to both use them properly and use them to maximize the fuel economy. Once again, the goal is as few pit stops as possible during the course of the race. Every time you can lose 1 pit stop, it helps you. But that's one of the things they've been working on with this new engine package and the paddle shifters to optimize the fuel economy.
All sorts of changes to that Corvette over the winter, and again, you know, it's constant development. They've got a brand new steering wheel, as you say, incorporating. Here comes the overall race leader, by the way, coming past the top cars in GT. But you know, that Corvette, it's a new steering wheel incorporating those paddle shifting, and they've also got this rear view camera system with a high-def picture on the dash, so they can see what's going on behind him. Right now, there's a lot going on behind Oliver Gavin.
He's seeing a lot of blue and white in terms of the BMW. Let's drop back through the pack and have a look at the GTC leader, the pole sitter Lee Keane for Alex Job Racing. Well, what a start to the season that they had last year. They took the first 3 positions in qualifying, and they turned that into a 1-2-3 on the podium. And Lee Keane, the black Porsche there and among the prototypes, doing a really good job. Great to see Alex Job Racing back in. As in fact, actually, it's the Magnus Racing car that looks
overtaken.
Or is he going a lap down?
No, he just made that pass. I think Lee Keane, I think, is second at the moment. He's just been passed by Craig Stanton. There is the battle in GT Challenge. It happened on that lap. It must have done, because the last time they came around here, I believe the
good spot, Jeremy.
Alex Job car was ahead, but that is a battle for GT Challenge, and again, that's what we're going to see all the way through this race and all the way through this season. Lee Keane is at the wheel of car number 23, 023, they're the battery tender car, and he's doing a fabulous job, as he always does. Lee Keane is a very fast driver.
Well, and it's been quite an interesting week for the entire Alex Job Racing squad. In an earlier practice, they were caught up in a pretty bad accident that actually bent their tub, so they had to go back to a chassis that had been sitting there for sale. They were trying to sell, but talking to Lee Keane, once they took some of the parts off this new Porsche onto the old chassis, he said it actually felt better than the original car they planned to race here. So he felt really optimistic. He set the pole here, and he thinks that there's no reason they shouldn't be able to repeat that win for Alex Job Racing.
The green and black car, it's the third of the 3 Porsche GTCs, is Damien Faulkner in the American Le Mans Series, multiple British Carrera Cup champion. He's been driving in the Porsche Super Cup. He's a good mate of ours here in the booth. He's joined us before in the past and been drafted into the defending champion GTC team, Black Swan Racing. Qualified the car pretty well. I spoiled it by tipping him for pole position, but he got it into third, and he's in third at the moment. And I do like this GTC class. It's really giving some teams a chance to dip their toe in the big show of the American Le Mans Series, and clearly the ACO like it too, because they've allowed it to run in this ILMC season opener.
That's right, and the cars, they're narrower than the GT cars, and they're very fast on the straightaways. Sometimes they're very difficult for some of the other, even the prototypes, to get past them. But Damien Faulkner Fatner, he's a talented driver. He raced over here in North America in Indy Lights about 10 years ago, and the final race of the season in 2001 was at Road Atlanta with Petit Le Mans. And Damien Faulkner had a look around the sports car grid that weekend, really for the first time. He hadn't really paid attention to sports car racing up until then. He thought, boy, I want to be here one time. And 10 years on, here he is, Damien Faulkner is in an ALMS race for the first time.
Another new car in the American Le Mans Series this year. This is the 008 Lamborghini with Yokohama rubber, as you can see from the onboard view. These guys haven't had an easy week of it with this brand new car. Lost a wheel in the early part of the week and had to wait for some parts to come from Germany. And, okay, you're thinking, hang on, Lamborghini Germany? Well, this is a Ritter engineered car based on a GT3 car. In fact, I think Jeremy's still running what is basically a restricted GT3 engine.
That's exactly right. They're still waiting for the full GT spec engine to arrive, so they're starting off with this one of the BMWs.
Yeah, this was the third place car. It looks like there's a puncture on that car as it heads through the S's out towards the Jean de Bihan corners and Le Mans turn on the back straight. Certainly something is awry with the left-hand side. He's lost a wheel. He's lost the carcass of the tyre.
Wow.
It's gone off into the boonies. It is indeed the left front of that car. Cut tyre then for the 56 of DIRK Müller. Had been battling for the lead of class and is now having to bring that car back. You see him flicking the paddles with his second finger on the right hand. Now here's the question. Did it happen on its own, or did he get some help? Oh, there's the answer. It was the Level 5 Coupe. This is the car that Scott Tucker has nominated himself for points in this race. That's what happens when carbon fibre hits the side of even a very strong Dunlop racing tyre. And the Crown Plaza BMW heads into the pit lane for an unexpected stop. Now they can make some kind of advantage out of this, or at least make the best of it. They'll give him 4 new tyres and a full tank of fuel and try and get him out as quickly as possible without losing a lap. And it happened about halfway around, Jeremy, and I think he's going to struggle to stay on the lead lap in class.
The good news is it wasn't too early in the lap. It happened, he's really only got that when the tyre came off the rim. He only had 2 corners after that to negotiate. So he was fairly fortunate there.
Now, it looks like nothing's happening in the pit lane, and that's because the fuel's going in. It's not because these guys are playing musical statues. They're actually waiting for the fuel to complete before they can go.
That's right. There's a rule of international sports car racing is that when the car is being refueled, no other work is allowed to be done on the car.
Well, the car starts to move away, and apparently it's stalled, and the engine's still going. They just haven't got any power at this point in time. They'd come on the radio when they were in the middle of that, and he said he had a flat left front tire. Now, when they came in, they were immediately there. You see him pull off that little pit of metal. Apparently, they heard that dragging. They're sending him back up. When they changed the tire, they seemed at first to think everything was okay. They didn't bother to look inside too much. They seemed to think it was okay. However, once they sent him back out, they heard something underneath that made them think that they needed to bring it back in. Now, they think they've got whatever it is under control, and he's back out. But that is a big loss for this team.
Heard the voice of Bobby Rahal talking to his driver, but he's gone out into a very open track there, and with 56 cars on a circuit that's only 3.7 miles, we didn't expect to see that very often. Charles Dressing, our statistician and spotter, did some fantastic mathematics and worked out to get the same car density around the Sebring circuit here that we have this weekend. To get the same amount of density at Le Mans, around 8.5 miles, you'd have to start something over 125 cars, which, when I said in an interview to McNish yesterday, he raised his eyes. We've got our first full course caution, and it is the Lamborghini in problems. The car has pulled over to the side of the road. Oh, what cruel look for BMW. Had that happened just a little earlier, they would have had the opportunity to come in. Nicky Pastorelli has grounded the halt on the Gallardo. This is the LP 564. And that car, they've been really rushing to complete this week. Not unique in that up and down the paddock, to be honest, Jeremy. A lot of people seemingly getting their programs together very late and have been doing an inordinate amount of car building, not just fettling here during the week. It's been like watching full-size Airfix kits out the back of the paddock.
Yeah, there have been an awful lot of teams working extremely hard this week, and amazingly, I think everybody actually made it out onto the grid, with the possible exception here of the Gulf Middle East. Aston Martin didn't make it out on the field. They had a problem this morning and has not made it for the field. So we've got 55 cars in the race. And 54 of them right now are still running, because that is a Lamborghini stuck at the side of the road. And you know, it's a brand new program there, a brand new team set up. It's running out of Indianapolis. They're going to be running the entire American Le Mans Series season, and it certainly isn't the way they wanted to start, but they feel the car is handling absolutely beautifully, and they feel very confident that when they get the proper GT spec engine, that they will be, you know, at least beginning to be properly competitive.
Now, if that Aston Martin's going to compete in the rest of the race, they need to get that out within the first hour.
Yes.
And that car needs to roll. Now, so now we get to see the new safety car procedure. We are 25 minutes into the race here at Sebring. It's the 59th annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida. So the Jaguar pace car, safety car as it is now, has gone out onto the circuit and picked up the race leader. Yes, he has. Peugeot behind. Very good. So, first part of the process has been completed correctly. No need for hand-off soapbox yet.
And actually, that wasn't the class. There was another 23 car there, is right behind the overall race leader.
Yeah.
So. Actually, Leakey had taken...
Yeah, that's the class leader.
No, he hadn't. Craig Stanton is leading that class.
Right.
So now what will happen is...
Well, what happens now is, the first thing is, once everybody's under control, and this is different from the American Le Mans Series in the past, and certainly different to other ACO events, the prototypes will be allowed to pit first. So that will take those Peugeots out of the way. They'll all go in the pits. Then the GTs, and then the challenge cars. It will work that way around.
But we're going to reset the field first, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We are going to reset the field before that.
To make sure that none of the cars that are, in this instance, the car running directly behind the overall race leader, the number 023 Alex Job Racing Porsche in GT Challenge, is second in that class. So effectively, he's now lost a complete lap to Craig Stanton in the Magnus Racing.
As has the rest of the GT field.
Indeed.
So, pass by is what we're talking about. This is the fairest way to ensure no team is disadvantaged by a safety car. And what you'll see happening is the class cars, other than the prototypes, will be pushed out to one side of the circuit and then waved around. Then we'll open the pits. Now, after the pits, we have the wave by that we've had in the past. Basically, that's resorting the field to put the first class leader on the road behind the safety car. We've seen that before in the American Le Mans Series. It sounds actually a lot more complicated than it is, but it's trying not to interfere in the class battles. And let's remember, we've got 5 different classes here when the leader is picked up by the safety car. The most important thing about getting the Jaguar safety car out there here at Sebring is to make the track safe. So we understand that sometimes not everything can be in the right order, and this gives the IMSA officials under Bo Barfield, our race director, the chance to put that right. Now, if you look from the aerial shot, you'll see that there are some of the cars pulling out to the right-hand side of the circuit to show themselves as they go across the start-finish line, and when they get the call from race control, they will be allowed to go forward and beyond the safety car and come back around.
And somebody's coming into the pits there, which they shouldn't be doing at this stage, because the pits are effectively closed at this point.
Well, unless they have a problem, they're coming all the way down to the end. Again, IMSA have said to the teams, if you have a problem, if you have a fuel problem, is that one of the Peugeots? It is the Matmut Peugeot, and he's being stopped. Now, he can't drive straight through without getting another pass-through penalty.
It's bizarre.
So that is a massive error by the Oregon Matmut team. If they've brought him in and passed straight through the pit lane, I didn't see him stop at his pit stall.
No, he didn't.
The IMSA book is sitting next to me. I don't think I need to resort to this one. That will be another pass-through penalty for going straight through the pit lane. He's losing ground as well at the moment.
Yeah, they're going to have to let all the field go past before they'll let him resume, and that has now happened, and there goes now.
I think that's a mistake.
I think it just made a mistake.
Yeah, I think that's a mistake. He saw cars pulling out of line.
Ok, Nico, tu rejoins l'accueil, on fait le pit stop.
Nicolas Lapierre being told by the team there that he will come in for the pit stop next time around.
Had been running in 6th place.
Yeah, that is going to cost them a whole lot of real estate. Nicolas Lapierre in the 908 HDI FAP. And yes, I do have to say that when we talk about that car, because that's last year's car. So again, that's a V12 5.5 litre turbo diesel. This is the same class of car as the Audis that are here, and these are what are called grandfathered cars. They're running to last year's regulations, but they're taking a big hit on the amount of power that they can make because they're breathing through a smaller gap. It's a bit like Usain Bolt running the 100 metres breathing through a straw. That's what it was explained to me by an engine technician.
Very good point. And it's probably cost them about 150 horsepower. And furthermore, they have a much smaller fuel tank as well. So it'll mean they can run less, less time between pit stops, John.
The thing is, it just affects the whole way the engine works. You're going to get a different power band, a different torque band.
And quite different to drive in some ways. It's really caused some challenges for the drivers.
On board with the 002 Extreme Speed Motorsports car for a moment there. Now on with Olivier Beretta in the 03 GM Chevy Corvette, the Monegasque driver, and he really is Monegasque. A lot of people live there for various financial reasons, but Olivier proudly wears the red and white flag of Monaco. The unmistakable figure of Jörg Bergmeister in the 045 Flying Lizard. Slightly different helmet design from Jörg this year. A bit more racy with the flames on the side. It is the story of big and small in that car. Now this is the 008 Gunnar Jeanette car in the the Lambo car in the pit lane. So he has made it back around, Nicky Pastorelli.
But again, they're not allowed to work on the car, John, are they, until the pits are officially opened?
And they're doing exactly the right thing. If they have a puncture or they needed to put fuel in, they're allowed 5 seconds of fuel or to change the damage. And he has got a puncture. In fact, he's not got a puncture. He's lost the wheel rim on the left rear. It's pulled out. It looks like the wheel has pulled off completely because the centre of the hub, I'm pretty certain from that shot. There you go. Ooh, wow. That's exactly what's happened. The wheel has broken. My goodness me.
Don't see that very often.
Well, no wonder he stopped that car. That was actually a pretty damn fine piece of driving by Nicky Pastorelli. It's unlucky. Now, I think they could change that wheel and send him, because that's the only thing that's the matter with that car.
Yeah, but that's certainly a major concern when a wheel fails like that. I mean,
well,
boy,
unless he had contact, unless somebody hit him side to side. Because you know these cars, particularly at the back, have got the camber.
Contact out there?
Yeah, it's a non-contact sport, you know.
Yeah, we've seen it already.
Like basketball. Basketball's a non-contact sport as well, remember that. Chris Dyson on the 060. The rear wheels, particularly on the GT cars, carry so much camber, so much lean, that they're actually outside the confines of the bodywork. And you get a couple of those banging together, Jeremy, maybe could have caused that. Good to see Chris Dyson and the Mazda Lola back. Isobutanol powered, one of the green fuels, one of the myriad of green fuels in the American Le Mans series, with diesel, E85, E10. And remember, the ethanol used in the American Le Mans series is non-food product based. It comes from wood pulp, second generation cellulosic E85. And the isobutanol actually is a great story, because we keep asking them what the downside is. They get better mileage out of it, the engine runs cooler, so they make more power, and it seems to be cleaning the engine for them as well. And I keep saying, yeah, but... And they go, no
what's
but.
the downside?
There's no but. The only but is isobutanol. With G-Oil, their new sponsor this year, that's a biodegradable engine oil as well. So a lot of green racing on that car and throughout the American Le Mans Series for 2011. Half an hour gone. It's Jeremy Shaw and John Hindhaugh here as we're under our first caution here at Sebring for the 59th annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida.
And on board here with David Brabham in the 01 Highcroft Racing HBD ARX 01E, a development of last year's car.
It's an important E.
Yeah, yes. there's a lot of changes to this car. Now it's stepping up from P2 to P1. It's got a more powerful engine, carrying more weight. That's Rob Hill on the radio to David Brabham telling him what they're going to do at this pit stop. It's also running larger front tyres this year. They're running rear wheels on the front effectively to give them more grip on the front of the car. Exactly, effectively what was pioneered by the ARX a couple of years ago in P1 with Nick Work's first design.
Yeah, but this time Michelin have built front tyres that are 18-inch, so that's a big difference. Through our great new high-def onboard cameras, you probably can see there www.highcroftRacing.com/help-Japan. Highcroft among a number of teams. You can see also on Brabs' visor, he's got the Japan logo there. A lot of teams in the American Le Mans Series with roots in Japanese companies or engine manufacturers and technology. And our thoughts going out to all of the victims and people affected by the tsunami and the earthquake. highcroftRacing.com/help/Japan, particularly for those of you outside of the US. If you're inside the continental US and you've got a US cell phone provider, you can text the word Red Cross to 90999. That's 90999, and make a $10 donation. That's for those of you in the US and with a US phone carrier. If you SMS the word Red Cross, all one word, to 90999, Nissan and a number of the other manufacturers also making big donations. Down to the pits, Rick DeMurl.
And we've got our first pit stops of these 12 hours. One of the things they were talking to about the drivers on the radio just before they came in, they warned this is a very busy pit lane. They only have 22 feet for each stall, 18 feet for the car. There's only 4 feet in between. They're putting the fuel in. Everything's going smoothly so far. Let's go down to Jamie and Audi.
Everything also going smoothly for the Audi crew. If these cars look familiar, they should. They're the exact same cars that they've raced with a smaller restrictor on the engine. The team thinks this is an advantage. They know the cars. They're practicing their pit stops for the law. Down to Kelly.
Further down the pit lane, the Highcroft car comes in. They had a smooth pit stop, but they did not have the qualifying they would have hoped for. They had made what they thought would be a small change after the final practice when Simon Pagenaud got in. He said he was battling a lot of oversteer and some imbalance, but David Brabham, so far as they've changed back to their original setup, seems very comfortable in the car.
Very interesting set of pit stops. So there, the Audi team, just how tight it was. McNish barely had enough steering lock to get out around the tyres that were coming off Rockenfeller's car. And I seem to think also that the Rebellion Toyota with Neil Yarney might have made up some positions there as well, because I don't see the Oak Racing, the Gulf-coloured Oak Racing 15 car of Mathieu Lehay ahead of him. On board with Mike Rockenfeller. Everybody going for tyres there as well. Yes, I know that it's a free stop under yellow, but I wondered if someone might have a little bit of a gamble. One of the front teams split their strategy and try and get some track position out of that stop.
Yeah, they didn't seem to. Of course, they did have to qualify on this set of tyres yesterday, so they kind of used the best of the tyres. They're remarkably consistent, these tyres. They really do last very, very well during a stint, but when you get out there in qualifying, you're on low fuel, you're running the car to go as fast as it possibly can, and that certainly tends to use up the tyres a little bit more. So I'm sure it's just a precautionary change by all of these teams on this first effectively scheduled pit stop of the afternoon, or morning, I should say.
Not too far away from actually having a full tank of fuel going into there, as Jeremy points out, with just over 35 minutes when they came in to the pit lane. See Mike Rockenfeller there just adjusting one of the many controls that he has there. That's probably either mixture or traction control that's off there to the right hand of the young German. And engine map maybe whilst they're still behind the safety car.
Yeah, make sure they use as little fuel as possible while they're running behind the pace car.
Well, that's one thing that the diesels are very, very good at. They run very well. Noticing some differences on this car that we haven't seen before. I can see the front wheels there of that R15, and I haven't noticed that before from the onboards. Now, we have got HD onboards, so maybe that's part of it, but I don't remember that opening being quite so pronounced on the right-hand side of the picture there, Jeremy, when I've watched these cars racing before.
Yeah, very good point. Certainly, quite a lot of change to this cars from last year. But it is certainly interesting, isn't it, that Audi has chosen to come here with last year's R15 Plus or R15 Plus Plus as the lap later. Now it is a chance of all the GT cars to come onto pit lane. But Audi running the last year's car with some restrictions, and Peugeot running their brand new car. GT pit stop, look at this.
Love that shot. Some of the prototype challenge cars still just getting in and out as we go back on board with David Brabham. And look at the front of that car as well, to the left-hand side, just above the Michelin sticker there, the louvres that you can just about see the tyre moving up and down in the picture there. Those of you watching on ESPN3.com or AmericanLeMans.com, fabulous pictures, thanks guys. The rules and regulations surrounding those louvres have been slightly different in Europe and other ACO races than here in the American Le Mans Series, but as the opening round of the ALMS this year, Sebring and the IMSA organisation have made it very clear to all of the participants that they will not tolerate any damage to those louvres. One louver even just flapping around, they won't pull you in from the circuit to do that, but when you come into the pits, if you've got one loose, you must change it before you go back out. And the same applies to headlights and tail lights. In the past, one at either end's been okay, but in accordance with Le Mans and ACO rules, you must have 2 headlights at the corners of the car and 2 tail lights at the back corners of the car. Again, that won't pull you in from the circuit, but what it will do, it must get that fixed before the IMSA officials will let you go back out. Now, teams like, and why am I wimbling on about this, teams like Highcroft here, that front section is all one section. When we get another look at the Audi or the Peugeot, the louvres themselves are a removable section within the nose. Now, I still think that they'll change the whole nose, Jeremy, but what that does mean is that they can recycle a nose with a broken louvre because they can slot a new section in, whereas Highcroft, a broken louvre means that whole nose is then not usable to them because they are not allowed to fix it with racer tape. That's in the rule book.
Yeah, so various changes to the rules, and it looks like a couple of cars elected not to come onto pit lane. One of the Oak Racing Pescarolo Judds didn't come on a pit lane apparently, nor did Johnny Mollem in the class leading now LMPC car.
Let's look back at some of the highlights with 41 minutes of the race gone. Jimmy Bruni taking back the lead in GT from Ollie Gavin, who sneaked away at the head of the field and made a 2-second gap. Very tight indeed going into turn number 3. The car's touched, but it is still Jimmy Bruni. In fact, it's not Jimmy Bruni because Boris Said has stayed out in the 040 Doran Ford, the Robertson Racing car, and he's picked up the lead in GT. Nice bit of tactical work there from the guys at Robertson Racing, and that's a car that has caused upsets in the past. Remember that we had it on pole position with David Murray at Petit Le Mans a couple of years back.
Yeah, that's right, and since then they've done an awful lot of work on those cars. Plus
fabulous.
This year they're running on Michelin tyres for the very first time as well, so we can expect to see those cars very competitive, I think, this season. Look a bit flying off there. Yeah,
the 33 car of Level 5 Racing, the Coupe, coming together with Dirk Werner in the 56 BMW, causing a left front puncture for Dirk Werner, and that put him out of sync. With this full course caution, he might be able to make 1 or 2 places back up, because of course he will not need now to come back into the pit lane. It's the American Le Mans Series and ILMC first round. Sebring, the 59th running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida. So, on the first caution, packed crowd, and we've just seen the first of the pit stops from the GT runners, and again, a bit of tactics being played there, as we said, with Boris Said staying out there. And up into second has come Jean-Denis Deletraz in the 59 car. This is one of the ILMC runners, the luxury racing Ferrari 458 Italia. What a great name for 18. In third position is DIRK Werner, as we said, making backup positions because he was out of sync. He could stay out there. Now he's in a great position because he has got new tyres, new Dunlop tyres, and a full tank of fuel on board that 56 car, thanks to that cut tyre that he got earlier on. So that hasn't worked out too badly for DIRK Werner because the two guys ahead of him are going to have to stop.
Wasn't it Mueller? Was it Mueller that had the problem? Which car was it that had the problem?
It was Mueller.
It was, wasn't it? I think.
Oh, there's me getting all excited for Bobby Rahal's team.
Yeah. No, and in fact, you know, the other car did lose a lap.
Yes, it did.
With that incident earlier on.
It looks like the safety car lights are out on the Jaguar XKR. We've picked up the first of the class leaders, which is Boris Said. Behind him is the race leader, Richard Eam for Oak Racing, one of 3 Oak Racing cars, the 24 P1. Heading down towards the start, this is the Oak Pescarolo Judd that he shares with Jean-Francois Yvon and Jacques Nicolet. And these guys, well, Jacques Nicolet, among the architects of Henri Pescarolo being back in sports car racing, bought back Henri's company and gave it back to Henri in a fantastic gesture at the end of last year. He said it was the right thing to do, and perhaps get a little payback this weekend as we go back racing. And Boris Said leads for Ford as it crossed the line. Richard Eam comes through, and Johnny Mobil is in second place in that black LMP car. He's got Mathieu Lehay, the second of the Oak cars there, in third place. 1, 2 and 3 prototypes. And Jeremy, you'd have got long odds if someone had said that inside the first hour it would have been Oak Racing from Hugh Chamberlain's LMPC car and Oak Racing in third position.
That's right, the Woodard Racing Organisation. Daniel Woodard, who is the owner of that car, well, he's actually leased the car, in fact, that Johnny Mobil is driving now. And they've had all sorts of problems with that car during the week. It was leased from Orica in France. It was supposed to be race ready. It makes sure it was not. And so Hugh Chamberlain's guys have had to work extremely hard to get it onto this racetrack and running competitively. But interesting that they should choose not to make a pit stop during that early caution period.
But they're going to be eaten up by the diesels, the 8 of Peugeot and the 2 of Alan McNish and Audi. And these are really the guys who are battling for the lead because they should be able to have the pace. So McNish comes around the outside, tries to make it 3 wide. Surely that can't be done. McNish defying the laws of physics and a big slide from Frank Montani in the Peugeot. He tries to get the power on. And oh, there's a touch. Contact. A big contact. It's knocked the camera slightly skew away from. We put that straight for our views on ESPN3.com. But McNish had a good look in the right-hand rear view mirror there to see if there was anything coming up on him, and he's right, because he's got the second Peugeot of Alexander Wirtz, who's got past Mike Rockefeller after the restart. Rocky just sitting in there in 4th position. So once again, as they come down to the final corner, it looks like McNish flashing his lights is going to lose second place. Oh, he almost turns in on the second of the Peugeots as Wirtz goes back through again, but McNish cuts back tight using the 2 Oak cars as a bit of a pick or a screen in basketball terminology as they go across the line to complete lap number 20 here at Sebring. And somebody's got to tell these guys we haven't done an hour yet, Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah, this is awfully tight out there, and some bit of a defensive driving going down there into turn 2 by Alex Wirtz. This is uncompromising driving by these guys up at the front of the field, and as you said, John, they've got to take it careful. You can't afford to have any contact in these cars. It's very easy to damage those little winglets on the front of the car. I think Alan McNish was pretty lucky to get away with that. I think he was sticking his nose really where it didn't really deserve to be on that last lap.
I think he may have dropped the right front of the car off the side of the circuit, and that was the bump, because if you look at the very right front of the splitter on the Audi, there's a lot of dust and dirt there, and there might just be something that's being pulled down. I think he may have fallen off the edge of the curb.
As I watch Alexander Wirtz out there, it's interesting. Before the race started, we were talking about strategies, and I was saying, are you going to be able to run your race, or are you going to get caught up in the battle with the Audis? He said, oh, no, I'm going to be able to run my race. I've got a plan. As I look at this, I'm thinking the plan's going away, but I could be wrong.
I think that once the visor goes down, that pretty much the red mist comes up, and these guys are racing drivers. They all know each other very well. They know who they can trust, they know who they can lean on. They expect to have hard racing but they certainly expect it to be tight as well between these two leviathans of racing, Peugeot and Audi.
Speaking with the Audi guys earlier in the week, they said, you know, we can take the bigger risk than the Peugeot guys can. Why? Because we have the open cockpit. We have all of the visibility that they don't have. Remember, these Audi drivers have now driven a closed cockpit car. They're testing their car for Le Mans, the R18. They know what they can see and what they can't. So Alan McNish, being quite racy, just checked in with the team. They said the car is just sturdy. There's no damage to it. That car is still ready for battle.
Taking over where the R8 left off. Remember, we used to say that the R8 in the early years of the American Le Mans Series was made of unobtainium because it just couldn't be broken. Had a long chat with Brad Kettler about the R8, and in fact they're racing here in the historic championship with one of the beautiful Kettler Motorsports R8 clones built from spare parts, and it looks like the R15 is just as well, durable, I think we could say, as its predecessor.
Well, Mike Rockenfelder is having one problem. They don't have any telemetry readings between the car and the pit. As a result, they're having to go over the radio. In fact, just a few moments ago, they were asking him, what are the tire pressures that you're seeing? They're not getting the telemetry to go back. They're relying on his information that he's having to feed back by radio so they know what the car's doing.
So that's not the portent of further problems, because all of those electronic systems tend to be linked together. It may just be the transmitter unit for the telemetry. They tend to use quite a lot of it nowadays.
And we're seeing now in the early stages after this restart exactly what we saw at the beginning of the race. Right off the bat, the Peugeot is just off and running, and it takes the Audis a few laps to get up onto the same pace. It looks to me, it's very, very early stages admittedly, and the conditions are going to change drastically when we get into the night time later on today. But now it's pretty warm out there. It got a lot hotter from the warm-up, which happened at 8 o'clock this morning, to the race started at 10:30. But in the heat of the day, as we're almost up to right now, it looks to me like the Peugeot's had a distinct advantage. They are capable of running at least a second a lap quicker than the Audis, or that's what they are doing at least, until the race settles down, and then I think we'll see the Peugeot times come back to what the Audis are running.
5th position for David Brabham, exiting turn number 1 and heading out past the packed RV parking spaces on his right and left. Just feathering the throttle under the walkover bridge, through Big Bend and down towards the heavy braking area. Leading in the GT category, still the Ford. Oh, well, only just the Ford. No, he's being passed by a couple now as they come to the strike this time. Boris said we'll lose the lead. It's Jamie Mello behind the wheel of the Risi 062 Ferrari 458, and it's the first time ever a Ferrari 458 has led an international motor race. 2nd place for Ollie Gavin, Dirk Werner third. So where has the 51 car gone? Answer, Jimmy Bruni way down in 7th position in class, so not a good pit stop from the AF Corsa guys. There is the brand new 458 Italia. I'm getting used to the look of that now. It's very distinctive in the dark because of its LED strip lights on the front. Ollie Gavin in 2nd. In a highly revised but familiar looking Corvette. You could probably say the same about the 3rd place BMW of Dirk Werner. Front engined V8s, of course, those two cars, with the Ferrari being a mid or rear to mid engine car. Great thing, of course, about the American Le Mans Series GT is we've got front engine cars, we've got mid to rear engine cars, we've got full rear engine cars as well, with the venerable 911s. What would GT racing be without Porsche 911s? Less rich, for one thing. Something like 50 years old, that car, in the next year or so. And I know that because it's the same age as I am. Ollie Gavin now beginning to just settle into his stride. He's got Dirk Werner behind him, who's been with BMW for a long time. No stranger to the American Le Mans Series, either of these drivers.
We've actually got 5 different manufacturers now in the top 5 positions in GT. We've got the Ferrari F458 Italia out front. We've got the Corvette of Oliver Gavin in 2nd place. We've got the BMW of Dirk Werner in 3rd. We've got the Doran Ford GT of Boris Said in 4th. And then Jörg Bergmeister, that Flying Lizard Porsche, in 5th place. That's kind of cool, isn't it?
Not be a bad collection for the garage, for the short garage, you reckon? Go there nicely with the Healy.
Yeah.
And you can see there the 55 car riding the bumps through turn number 17.
But a good pit stop there, clearly by Reese, who's got that car out in front of the pack at the moment. They're running, what, about 5th place, I think, in the early stage, just 6th actually, weren't they? So a great stop by Reese, who's got that car out of the front of the race.
Reese not going to Le Mans this year, but they are a big race team with the guys, Dave Sims down there. They seem to know when to get it right, and despite the fact this car is brand new and probably still has that brand new car smell, they've managed to do it again and somehow already lead this race.
Reese's done a lot of work in the offseason with their crew and their systems. They didn't have the 458 until late in the game. However, they had done a lot of development work. One of the things that they did was they went to a single plug fuel system. Now what that means is they can actually vent the air and put the fuel in at the same time. What does that mean for us? That means that it saves them about 3 to 4 seconds on every fuel stop that they make. And today it's proving to be an advantage already.
Well, we've had 2 cars coming together at the exit of turn number 1. The 98 Jaguar is one of them, and that's got significant damage on the right front corner. And that car is going to have to come in. I think there's loose bodywork there. The
Straight
headlights...
is the steering wheel straight.
It's the steering wheel straight. Oh, well, maybe they won't come in.
PJ Jones
driving the car. There was another car involved. Was it one of the BMWs? It was the 56 car coming back through the field. Now that's fast. That's 140 plus miles an hour, even in a GT car, Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm not sure if PJ saw him there.
No, I don't think he did.
PJ Jones, a massive amount of experience, of course. He almost won this race back in 1993, driving for Dan Gurney's All-American Racers team. Back in the race. Let's look at the BMW here.
Oh,
there's
no.
a contact.
Dirk Muller was a long way by. He must have thought he'd given the Jaguar a good run. Now, that's the second time that car's been hit. Has it got a magnet in it on that side? That's front left and rear left now that has had a hit from someone in this early, well, 55 minutes or 24 laps in the early running here at Sebring. It's John Hindhaugh and Jeremy Shaw. And we're just hearing from the IMSA officials that they will be called for a unavoidable contact penalty. That's the 098 PJ Jones. Should have seen that car coming, and he will have a stop-go penalty into the pits, wheel stop and out again. Let's get back to the GT battle. Second, third and fourth pretty much together there, and coming up to lap 1 of the GT40s, the second of the GT40s, Jeremy.
It is a big battle, isn't it, going on here, and it's
actually,
so
no, that's
close.
Boris, isn't it? He's gone back through. He's gone by. Oh my goodness me! And now the 2 Peugeots are in there as well. Boris is doing a pretty good job there, battling away with Jörg Bergmeister and Olivier Beretta. And in fact, it's 4th, 5th and 6th absolutely together we're watching. And now the 2 leaders head out down towards turn number 7. The 2 Peugeots, Frank Montani in the 8, Alexander Wirtz in the 7, and Beretta has gone through there. And Bergmeister seems to be slightly held up. And look at this, the 2 Extreme Speed Motorsports Ferraris coming through as well, Guy Cosmo and Scott Sharp. So Jimmy Bruni must be in the mix. There he is, yeah. There is the 51 pole-sitting car. So I'll leave this for you for a little while as Boris on the older tyre gets a little wide. I'm just going to take a breath. You talk about this, Jeremy.
Up to the inside goes Jimmy Bruni, so he finds his way past Boris. So this is the battle for what, 5th, 6th and 7th, I think, or 6th, 7th and 8th in GT, but a great battle all the way back there. You can see the 2 Extreme Speed Motorsport Ferrari F458 Italians, and they've both been running strongly this weekend. That team, yeah, they've been a super job.
That's the 002 car that we're on board with now. The paint scheme works really well. They were among the first, I think, certainly in America, to get the new 458, and they've used that time to their advantage. How quick is that forward in a straight line, by the way? That is very good indeed. But the guys at Extreme Speed, as I say, they were here at the winter test at the beginning of February, and they've really made hay getting those cars early on in the season. Oh my goodness me, this is Mike Rockenfeller in the Audi. He's got a left rear puncture and there's damage to the rear bodywork as well. This is the car that was in 4th position. He'll have given that up to David Brabham already. He's coming down the back straight, I think now, so not too far to go. Looking carefully in his left rear view mirror to see the carcass of the sport of the
The
tyre
left
rather.
rear tyre which is down, the left rear tyre. Take a look at the engine cover when he comes in.
That's Lena, his race engineer, who is talking to him. Oh, yes, slow down, Rocky, slow down!
A lot of damage.
And now that's going to cause a full course caution. Full course caution is going to have to come out because he sheds the carcass right in the middle of turn number 17. 58 minutes and 48 seconds, and one of the real challenges for the first round of the ILMC and the ALMS for 2011 is in the pit lane in problems, and that's more than just changing a tyre, Jeremy.
It is. It's tore up the bodywork on that left rear corner on that car, and who knows if it's done any other damage as well. So that's a grave misfortune there for Mike Rockenfeller.
Okay.
And Jamie Howe is in the Audi pit.
Mike Rockenfeller brings the car to a stop. Crew goes to work. First thing that can be done is the fuel goes in. They cannot do any other work, but this does give the team an opportunity to look, and it looks like there's a lot of damage to the rear of the car. Looks like two different pieces right now. Car's up on the jacks. These cars are built for easy changes, though. And of course, Audi Sport already having the pieces ready. New wing, new rear piece coming over the wall.
And did you see how much pickup there was on that front right-hand tyre that was taken off because he's run offline? Of course, the rear bodywork cover, and they're having a look around the left rear suspension, clearing out all of the bits of rubber that is undoubtedly there. A wrench going in. We have stayed green at the moment, and there's plenty of racing at the head of the field between Montani and Verts. These guys are teammates, and I wonder when Olivier Canel will be on there going, ahem.
And once again, they've cut their pace down by a couple of seconds compared to the pace they were running right away after that restart, what, about 20 minutes or so ago, as work still goes on the Audi. A whole complete rear end onto that car, the bodywork.
Now that's clever, Jeremy. They did this, remember when they had the pop-off gearboxes on the Audi RH, you're not allowed to do that anymore. But this whole rear section is mandated that it has to be there, and particularly with the legality panels behind the back wheels. So Audi, rather than putting it on in pieces, have decided to make it one piece. Jamie is back down there in the Audi Sport pit.
The rear wing already reattached. Now the rear cover is going back on. Another issue that this team was having was the telemetry. So by bringing the car into pit lane and bringing it to a complete stop, they were also able to cycle back through. They believe they now have the telemetry issue sorted out. Just took nearly seconds to get the computer back and running, minutes to get it back on track, and Rocky is back and underway.
And there was some team communications there too. Mike Rockenfeller, the team, had a good look at the left rear suspension. They're not going to take any chances this early in the race, and they've declared that car fit to go. Just over 1 hour gone of the 12 here at Sebring and the 59th annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. And we stayed green, so that tyre carcass, Jeremy, must have gone off the racing line and disappeared into the boonies at turn. Well, I say that, it's kind of widened the entry to the corner out a little bit. Yes, that's right next to the Marshall station. So the first hour is done, and in the history books here, let's remind you of some of the action. We've had plenty. How am I going to go on for another 11 hours here? Looking forward to it. You can't say that this is not exciting. People tell us you can't watch endurance racing, there's never anything happens. Yeah, we're an hour in, and we've already had plenty of storylines here at Sebring. At the start, we unleashed pretty much 100,000 horsepower, and the Peugeot from pole position leading away. Alan McNish in the yellow trimmed Audi, making the racy move early on, trying to get above the French cars, as he's done in years past at Le Mans, and give them some kind of competition early on. He managed to get past Mike Rockenfeller, who played wingman for a little while, but McNish ultimately had to give best, and second place disappeared into turn one in the early laps. And then the Peugeot's pretty much pulled away, developed a bit of a lead. Now we're used to great battling in the GTs. Jimmy Bruni lost the lead at the start from pole position in the AF Corsa Ferrari 430 to Ollie Gavin, and Ollie disappeared 2 seconds up the road, but he managed to get it back on lap number 8. Just about. There's some paint trading going on there. That will polish out, though, for the guys at AF Corsa. The first of a couple of problems for BMW number 56 with Dirk Muller on board. Contact with the level 5 prototype, right front puncture, the 33 Lola Coupe, just drifting wide from the apex of the corner and tagging it. That put him completely out of kilter. Now, some of the teams, notably Oak Racing, stayed out and took track position, and that gave us a great view from Alan McNish as he tried to take back second place, going through the traffic after the restart. Definitely a touch there. You can definitely hear it on the onboard mic, but the Audi number 2 has continued, and both the Peugeots have disappeared into the distance again, and it's Frank Montani from Alexander Wurz in the sunshine here at Sebring for the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida.
There was a town held captive by an evil gas pump. It fed on people's hard-earned money. But along came the Michelin Man, who reminded them the right tire changes everything. And with fuel-efficient tires in place, that evil gas pump wasn't so evil anymore. Michelin Energy Saver AS tires can help save up to 109 gallons of fuel. Michelin, a better way forward.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G Oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
Well, it's just over 65 minutes of racing completed here at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, and this is not a replay. This is Mike Rockenfeller with a second left rear puncture, and we've already heard from the team that it will go straight behind the wall. They've just come back out of the pit lane, having replaced the whole rear bodywork and tail section, and exactly the same wheel and tyre has succumbed again. So I think we can only presume that either Mike is driving over something very sharp out there on one of his exits to the corners, or there's something underneath the car that is rubbing and causing maybe the inside wall of that tyre to get a damage on it. But this is absolutely disastrous for Audi, not only for this race but for their hopes in the ILMC, that 7-round World Championship effectively for the rest of the season. Jeremy?
Yeah, completely disastrous. And you know, having one incident like this is one thing, but having a second one right away afterwards. I mean, they changed everything on that on the back end of the car. Complete new tail section, a complete new top bodywork section as well. So hard to believe that it was something that's rubbing on that car, on that tyre. But also hard to believe that you should actually run over anything twice, particularly on the same corner of the car. So that's very, very strange.
I think that was on his first lap out,
yeah, it must have been.
as well.
Absolutely.
I don't think he's even gone by. Let's have a look at the timing and scoring monitor. No, he hadn't. That is just unbelievable.
It was an amazingly fast work by the Audi guys to get that car back out of the fray with all that.
Jeremy, you've been to Le Mans. And you know that if in a crisis, who are you going to pick? Which team?
Wing again.
Yeah, rear wing's completely broken on the left rear side, but in a crisis, who are you going to pick to get it put right and stay cool? It's the guys from Audi. You know, when there are problems, they will be the guys that fix it. From the Porsche Helicam, we're looking down on the pit lane with a huge section of left rear bodywork on that P1 Audi as we predicted, turns right-handed just past our broadcast booth. We'll hear a rumble, but he's a diesel, so we won't hear him at all. And look at that. There's attention to detail. They've got a golf cart in front running interference to clear the road out of the way so that the Mike Rockenfeller-driven car can get back to their awning as quickly as possible. And that's the sort of thing we were talking about in terms of when things go wrong, plan ahead. And that golf cart effectively running as an escort to Mike Rockenfeller.
Yeah, great. So because there is a speed limit in the pits and anywhere in the infield there. So golf cart speed, that's about it.
saving as much time as possible, getting back into the paddock is going to be essential for Audi. Why? Because they don't know what the issue is. They heard Mike Rockefeller on the radio. They said, all he said to the team was, it feels like we have a puncture. They came in, they changed the bodywork, went back out, the same exact thing. We have another puncture, and they don't know what's causing it. They're back at the tent now. Audi is very good at taking this car apart, putting it back together. That's one of the reasons they ran the R15 here. They want the team to get used to these race conditions, because when they head over to Le Mans in June, you don't know what's going to happen. So they want the team to be able to practice what they're doing now on a car that they know, and they're at work.
You know, they've got no thermometry on that car, and one of the things they lost was tyre pressures, and I wonder if something at the back end, that one of the sensors there, they have inserts on the rims of the wheel that measure the tyre pressures, and clearly there has to be a transponder on the other side of that to receive it. I wonder if there's something there that's gone wrong, and that's maybe been a problem and pulled off, but there's definitely, that is not right.
No, I mean, that's not causing the problem, but at least it would have helped them perhaps diagnose why the tyre went down, or whether it went down suddenly, or whether it was going down over a period of time.
That's a good point.
And that's the information they wouldn't have been able to gain if they hadn't had telemetry. What a wonderful overhead view that is with this fantastic facility.
Van Montani from Alex Wurz, and these Peugeot guys, well, this is the new car. They want to get this car at the end. They've had their preparations for the 2011 season slightly dented, haven't they, Jeremy? Because the first version of this brand new 908 was comprehensively destroyed in a very odd testing accident in northeastern Spain at a little circuit called Aragon, when Marc Genet had a big incident with the car and basically reduced it to its component parts. And then just recently, Nick Manassi and Paul Ricard in the south of France had another incident where the car got airborne and destroyed that car. Now, that wasn't one of the cars they were meant to bring to Sebring, but it was right at the start of the 30-hour test, so it hasn't particularly disrupted their plans for Sebring, but it has certainly made things more difficult as far as their Le Mans plans are concerned. And Alan McNish, actually, Jeremy, you've just seen that. He's taking advantage of these two guys battling.
Well, the interesting thing is that Alan McNish is running a pretty consistent pace. The Peugeots aren't. They're flying out front early on, and then they're throttling back and just looking after things. And at this stage, they certainly appear to me to be in complete control of what's going on. But it was kind of interesting to watch them come out of turn 7 hairpin there, side by side. And whether one of them made a mistake, I didn't really see a mistake, but I think they're playing around, quite frankly.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, if it's entertaining, isn't it? There's no doubt about that. As Montani turns, how sharp is that car on turning? It's very much, as the racing drivers would say, on the nose, very pointy. And yet, they seem to be able to control the car over the bumps.
And again, there's larger front tyres on that car that helps to turn into the corner, particularly in slow-speed corners, but it helps in all of the corners as well. And this new 908, it looks very, very similar to last year's car, but it is completely different. Just about every component on that car is different, even though it might not look it. But every gain they have made, they've put into this car. It's a beautiful piece, and it is obviously working extremely well.
Smaller engine, of course, 3.7 V8 TDI for the Peugeot. So they've got less power. They've tried to keep the same amount of downforce with less drag. Now, that's a difficult thing to do, because as soon as you try to push the car on the ground, obviously that needs more power to push it through the air and make the same forward progress. But both Peugeot and Audi, with the new car that we'll see at the ILMC at Spa, they've both said that they have been able to make the car more slippery and yet still retain pretty much the downforce that they've seen in the past. And that's very, very clever air management through and over and under the car, as well as just around it.
And that little graphic just showed us, they caught it there. You can see the lap times over the last 5 laps for the race leader. And it went from 1 minute 50s to 1 minute 53s. Now traffic can play a part in that, of course. But I fancy they're not pushing absolutely flat out at the moment.
Yeah, McNish is doing 51s and 52s.
Yeah, which is about what he's doing on a regular basis.
So Alan McNish just gently reeling them in, and there's the trend for Alex Wurz. Look, 49s not so very long ago, and now out to 53s, and Alex Wurz decides now it's time to reverse that trend and goes by his teammate Frank Montani. I wonder, if Montani's had a little word there from Olivier Canel, the team manager, and said, look, if you're struggling to make the lap times, you must let Alex go. And we're hearing that there was a French language transmission to the both of the cars as they were coming down the back straight there, and I think Wurz has been given the go-ahead, and they effectively had the wave by from the Peugeot team manager Olivier Canel, a man with a huge amount of experience, particularly in team sports, because of course he was the man at the head of Peugeot Sports Rally Programme.
Yeah, indeed, the advantage of having a team like that, you've got two cars, one's a little faster, no one wants to give anything up, but they did go on the radio, I heard them talk about it, say he was going to come along on the back straight and take away. I should point out, Alexander Wirtz has a special secret. In the car with him, he has two different colored shoes. He's got one red, one blue. Used to do it a long time ago when he was first starting out, got some luck, felt it was good. When he was driving for McLaren, they wouldn't allow him to do it, but 2 years ago he started back up. So he says, whenever I wear the two shoes, the two different colored shoes, I just get a little extra bit of luck, and right now it's working.
He told you that it's just because racing drivers can't remember which is left and right. Isn't that right, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But look, while the two Peugeots are exchanging positions there, Alain McNish is not far behind, is he? Just less than 2 seconds last time around as the Black Swan Racing Porsche holds up the second place Audi just for Peugeot just for a moment. And there's McNish, he's right there.
He really saw his opportunity. Do you see how decisive he was there, Jeremy? The GT drivers actually really like McNish and Brabham and Franchitti because those are the guys who make their intentions absolutely clear when they're going by.
A chunk of rubber fell off one of the cars there, didn't it? Coming down into Sunset Bend into turn 17, but these Peugeots look awfully good, and but yeah, they're not pulling away. Yeah, at this stage, they say you don't want to give Alain McNish a sniff of anything, do you? I mean,
absolutely not.
Look at that traffic through turn one. The speed differential in some of these cars.
And that was the P2 leader, the Signatech Nissan, that they were going past there with Franck Mailleur at the wheel. I just wonder, Jeremy, we see the Peugeots maybe struggling a little more in traffic. I wonder if the smaller engine, the smaller displacement that car has, means that when they lose momentum behind the traffic, it just takes a little more for that diesel to spool up. Now, I know that McNish's car has a bigger engine that's restricted, but maybe more torque. And we're hearing that the number one Audi is back on pit lane. This is the one that in fact, it's out of pit lane now, because that's the exit of turn number one, right in front of the Audi Motorsport Experience Hospitality unit on the left-hand side. So Mike Rockenfeller back into the fray, and they've sent him straight back out. He's having a little weave around there, and trying to get some heat in the tyre. No tyre warmers allowed, of course, in sports car racing. So once you lose the temperature from the tyres, you lose a little bit of pressure as well. I'm not sure that he's completely convinced that that is fixed, and whether he's got a car underneath him that he can be completely confident of.
No, I think that's absolutely right. He's going to take, I think, probably a couple laps. He's well out of contention now already. Effectively, he's lost, and I can't see on our scoring because he's gone
out the top 34.
He lost about 10 minutes in that last stint, so that was probably your best part of at least 5 laps. So he's probably 6 or 7 laps down at least. So pretty much out of contention for running at the front of the pack. But you know, I'm still thinking about what's happening at the front of the field, and I'm fascinated by the fact that Wirtz and Montagny in the two Peugeots are now having a bit of a hard time holding off Alain McNish. And you know, I'm thinking it's probably that's Alain McNish and Audi that's taking things a little bit easier. Again, in these very early stages of this race, and they let the Peugeots pull out front in the first part of those stint. And I don't know, you know, Alain McNish, he can be pretty cagey. He's generally flat out all the way, but he can be pretty cagey as well.
So as we ride on board with Mike Rockenfeller, here's how it stands on lap number
moving that car around
36 for the leaders. Alexander Wirtz leads by 0.3 of a second from Frank Montagny. The 7 and 8 Peugeot are heading the field from Alain McNish, who's just about a second further back.
Stay on the tyre pressure page. We have no telemetry. No telemetry.
Still no telemetry, and Lena, the race engineer, telling Mike Rockenfeller exactly what he needed to do. Now this is a replay on board with Alain McNish from earlier on, and he's having a little look to try and get by. This was after the first restart, and got hit with the Peugeot on the left-hand front, but he just about managed to survive and is in 3rd position at the moment. As I say, about a second away from the Peugeots. In 4th, Nicolas Lapierre, the Rebellion Toyota. I haven't seen very much of that Lola Coupe, a beautiful gold, red and white machine, but Lapierre some 20-odd seconds back from Alan McNish, and then David Brabham, the first of the ALMS runners, in 5th position in the 0-1, defending champion Highcroft HPD prototype. Neil Yarney and Mathieu Lehay have been battling it out for 6th and 7th position overall in respectively the Oak racing car and the Toyota. Sorry, Nicolas Lapierre in the 10 is in the Matmut car, which we haven't seen that much of either after they had a little problem. But it's just running. It's just running around.
Yeah,
it's playing backstop exactly as it's meant to do.
Yeah, a little bit less than half a minute, 25 seconds or so behind the first three is Nicolas Lapierre in car number 10. Again, the restricted 2010 spec Peugeot. But I expected them again to be running up the front with these other guys. So again, they're taking things very cautiously in the early stages of this race. The first time here for Nicolas Lapierre, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Sure it is. As we go on board with the David Brabham-driven 0-1 prototype for Highcroft in LMPC, Ryan DL leads for Core Autosport. The 005 car from Ryan Lewis. So if your name's Ryan, you're doing all right in PC at the moment in the 52 PR1 Mathieson Motorsports car. I've seen that car spinning a couple of times earlier on in the week, but they've got it dialed in now. Louis Jeanette rather is 3rd in the 2nd of the Core Autosport cars. Remember, the 005 and 006 cars bought as a job lot, if you will, from Level 5 Motorsports last year.
Are they good for another stint? Wear-wise, they look good. Wear-wise, they look good.
That's Rob Hill, isn't it, talking to David Brabham. And
well, you know, to be honest, I don't know, because we've never really got this far before, have we?
Laconic David Brabham? Nah.
It's a very good piece of feedback, though, isn't it? Rob Hill's asking if they think they can do an extra stint in that on those tyres, and they haven't done this much running in the car. That tells you how new it is.
That's right. I mean, the car only turned a wheel for the first time last Sunday, just a few sort of testing laps for that car, and then it was running, funnily, oddly, with the Le Mans bodywork on that car. The bodywork they're planning to run for Sebring didn't actually arrive even until Monday, and it wasn't run for the first time really till Thursday.
Now, on board with the 3rd place GT car, that's Dirk Werner in the 56 BMW M3. It's Ollie Gavin in 2nd place, right ahead of us, and you can just about see the red of the Ferrari disappearing down towards turn 7, but this is a pass for position. If the BMW gets there, he's thereabouts, but my goodness me, last of the late breakers, Ollie Gavin had a good long look in the right mirror there to see if he could move across and take the racing line, and fair play to both drivers again. Dirk Werner realising he wasn't quite there and didn't make the pass. In 4th position in GT, the 045 of Jörg Bergmeister.
He's about 20 seconds back in 4th place.
Yeah, he's not hanging with there's only, a couple of seconds between the first three. The 045 Flying Lizards is well off. Well off the pace there. Jimmy Bruni, who led the class from pole position early on, is in 5th position in the AF Corsa 430 Ferrari, and then Scott Sharp is the first of the Extreme Speed Motorsports Ferrari 458, the 001 car, in 6th position. By the way, we should just mention GTE ARM, the ILMC class, being led at the moment by Richard Leeds, Porsche driver, of course. Ooh, problem for the BMW.
Yeah, big problem.
Missed gear. Now, they've got a paddle shift, of course, which they haven't had before. One or two teams saying it's not working perfectly yet. They're still tuning the way that the engine and the gearbox interact, and sometimes now that sounded like that was on a downshift, then an upshift. It wasn't quite working properly.
It did, and that's down to an electronic problem. That's not it. The driver didn't miss a gear like you would do with a regular
good point
H pattern or even sequential. But that was clearly some sort of electronic problem there. But it seemed to have cured itself.
Just to finish off my thought there, Richard Leeds in the Proton competition Porsche, leading the GT amateur class. Remember, you're not allowed more than one pro driver in that, and that is a new class for this year, but it will be part of the Le Mans 24 Hours, and therefore it's part of the ILMC. So it is, if you like, a subclass of the GTE category, depending on what you want to call it. It's what used to be GT2, all right? Just think of it that way, you'll be fine. Now, the BMW sounding much happier. down through the gearbox into turn number 7. Fabulous HD pictures from the onboard. You could learn a track from that quite easily, couldn't you, Jeremy, when you see those pictures?
Fantastic. Putting a lap there on the Paul Miller Racing Porsche, running on, stepping up. Last year they ran in the GT Challenge class. This year stepping up to GT, and with Yokohama tyres, and there's certainly some work to be done, I think, from Yokohama to make that a properly competitive proposition. But that team is learning fast. But I was surprised there how quickly the BMW was able to go past that number 048 Porsche.
So there is our GT leader, and this
closing up now again.
Very tight. Jamie Mello has got, well, now here's an interesting one, because of course Risi used to be partners with the Krone Racing team, the Ferrari 430 running in the GTE amateur class, now gone out on their own. Nick Jonsson's Kinetic organisation trying to help them out, and oh, that's a big dive down the inside, and we know there's tyre debris on the inside of that corner from Mike Rockefeller, and that was a bit of a chance that had to be taken there by Jamie Mello, and that's because behind him, 2 cars behind him, is the second place car in GT, Ollie Gavin, in the GM Chevy Corvette. He's hunting him down and has almost got target acquired there. First and second almost together, going through and out of turn number 1, kicking up dust on the exit there. Jamie Mello in the 458 Italia, a very aggressive looking racing car, and
isn't it?
yeah, and the movement forward of this car in terms of performance and weight, very, very impressive from the 430, which in itself clearly is still a very good racing car.
And speaking to Mika Salo early yesterday, who will share this car with Jamie Mello, who's on board right now, and Tony Wielander, Mika was saying, you know, it's much more like a racing car, the 458, more than the 430, which is kind of more road derived. This is, you know, they know what they wanted to do to make that car go faster, and that's what's now incorporated in this F458 Italia.
So Wirtz from Montani, Peugeot 7 from Peugeot 8, 1.8 seconds the difference, and Alan McNish just around about another second further back in 3rd position for the remaining Audi in contention at the moment. Mike Rockefeller with 2 left rear punctures, and Nicolas Lapierre is in 3rd position. More racing to come here from Sebring, and the 59th annual Mobil 1 12 hours from Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida.
There was a town held captive by an evil gas pump. It fed on people's hard-earned money. But along came the Michelin Man, who reminded them the right tire changes everything. And with fuel-efficient tires in place, that evil gas pump wasn't so evil anymore. Michelin Energy Saver AS tires can help save up to 109 gallons of fuel. Michelin, a better way forward.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G Oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
Back here at Sebring, where the leading Peugeot 908, being driven by Alexander Wirtz, has come into the pits. They're changing tires. They have also changed drivers. They now have Anthony Davidson in the car. One of the debates before they came in was which compound to pick. They want to know which is the other Peugeot going with. He stalled it a little bit, but he's back on the road.
Just a slight problem with the right front, fitting those bigger tires, these 18-inch tires underneath the front fenders, the front wings of these prototypes. Just a little bit more difficult because A, they're bigger, and B, of course, those wheels are heavier. Well, if Peugeot's been in, surely Audi must have been in as well. Jamie Howe.
They certainly were, and they have a huge advantage now. The number 2 machine stopped on pit road, took a full load of fuel. Alan McNish, though, stayed behind the wheel, and they're double stinting the tires. He beat them out of pit lane by almost half a lap, it looked like.
Well, that's very interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting.
Let's go back down the pitch for the Highcroft pit stop.
And that's David Brabham just pulls out of his but they came in for fuel only, and just a few stalls behind him is the Muscle Milk team, who's still sitting in pit lane. We're not totally sure what's going on there, but we did see them make a driver change as Greg Pickett got out. It looked like Klaus Graf may have gotten behind the wheel, but obviously something's going on that they're sort of stalled right now. We'll find out what's going on and get back to you.
That's the Aston Martin Lola.
That's a shame.
Yeah, that is a shame, because that car looks and sounds good. Not quite the edge of the big howling V12 that we're used to. It's not breathing quite as freely under the new regulations. But Greg Pickett trades in his Porsche for an Aston Martin for this season. Oh my goodness me, this is the amateur drive car, the 50 car from the GT category, the Labra competition version of the GM Chevy Corvette with Gabriel Gardel on board. And that car has come to a grinding halt. It looks to me the driver's door is open. Has Gabriel got out of the car? Yes, he has. That's him in the white suit talking to the safety team there. And if he goes very much further away from that car, that's abandon A. And that will then be that car out of the race. He's having second thoughts now, deciding what he's going to do. Can he talk to his team? Is there some way he can get this car back? But once he's received outside assistance, of course, that's game over.
And that was running second, I think, in the amateur class, wasn't it?
Yeah, the new amateur championship in the ILMC, and of course at Le Mans, they have their own podium at the 24 Hours in June, giving a great chance for some of the smaller teams in GT to take home one of those famous 24 Hours trophies. It's not a class that the American Le Mans Series will follow this year. The GT category will just be all in one scoring serial. There is the GT leader, Jamie Mello, and Ollie Gavin just nipping at his heel. Must be quite frustrating for both of them, this, Jeremy, because Ollie's not quite close enough to make a dive down the inside, but by the same token, Jamie's not far enough away to be able to relax a little bit.
No, that's very true, and not far behind him now again is that third place BMW of Dirk Verney. Lost about 5 seconds with that paddle shift problem we saw 3 or 4 laps ago. You could see the BMW half the way down the straightaway, and still in third place in the last couple of laps. He's been a little bit quicker than these two class leaders in GT. Meanwhile, just go back to the overall race lead and tell you that the number 8 Peugeot also has been onto pit lane for routine service after 42 laps. And interesting, I think most of all amongst that round of pit stops is that the Audi was the first car onto pit lane. It managed to come in on lap 40. One of the Peugeots came in on 41 and the other Peugeot on lap 42. And that is, again, as a result of the fact that the Audi is running a smaller fuel tank this year.
Leader in P2 there, just got a quick flash of the 26 car going through. That's the Signatech Nissan. And there is our new leader as well, Alan McNish, because in has come the 8 car. Changed drivers, so therefore changes tyres as well, spends longer time in the pits. And Alan McNish, by dint of the fact that he stayed in the car and didn't take tyres, remember, changing the tyres is an absolute amount of time that you add on after the fuel. You can't do them together like you can in open wheel racing. So McNish working lighter as he goes past the P2 leader, the Signatech Nissan, working his Michelin tyres a little bit lighter, and that's paid dividends for them. It's very interesting, isn't it? Because they've been here with this car testing, and they've been here testing with Michelin. Therefore, they've got a little bit more handle, perhaps, than Peugeot with the new car, who've tested, but all in Europe, not here at Sebring. Leader in Prototype 2 category. What a debut it's been. Haven't had a pole-sitting Nissan here for quite some time. 1994, I think, was the last time a Nissan won here.
It's actually running second. I think they must have made a pit stop a little while ago, because Lucas Ordonez is now driving that number 26 Nissan, and in fact Luis Diaz is leading the class in the 055 Level 5 Motorsports Lola Honda, or Lola HPD, and I believe that car probably owes us a pit stop. There's the 052. Second place in LMP Challenge.
Yeah, now that looks dead stick to me. Looks like there's no fire. Have a word about Lucas Ordonez next time we see that car, because there's a story that will surprise quite a lot of people. But at the moment, We are staring at a front-running LMP challenge car that has no fire. Still got electrical power, Jeremy, because the front light, and as I say that, Ryan Lewis flicks off and on. That's going to be the three-fingered salute, isn't it? Control, Alt, Delete. Turn everything off, turn everything back on again.
Yeah, he's trying to get it fired up again and not having much luck. And that car was running very nicely. They've kept a fairly low profile through practice and qualifying. Ryan Lewis was very much in the battle for the class pole yesterday,
yes, he was.
but spun it with a couple of laps to go, and ultimately ended up third in class. Third or fourth, was it? But it was a great battle that for the class pole in LMP Challenge yesterday, but this is a major problem for Ryan DL and that PR1 Matheson Motorsports team.
Well, you can probably see the GM Chevy safety truck already just easing out onto the grassed area on the right-hand side, and we're back under full course caution here at Sebring with an hour and 33 minutes in the books, just after 10:30 here local time. For those of you around the world, welcome to one of the world's truly great motorsport events, and we'll be bringing everyone in back behind the Jaguar XKR safety car in just a few moments' time here at the 59th annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida.
Shreds, they fixed it, sent him back out, and immediately the left.
So the car is completely stationary, and Ryan doing the right thing. Sit in the car, it's where you're safest. You've got a lot of carbon fibre around you, but I think he's tried everything that a driver can try, Jeremy, which is pull everything out, turn everything off, hit the big red button, and then go back on again.
Yeah, and Ryan, he doesn't have an awful lot of experience in sports cars, but he's been around sports car racing now for a couple of years. He tried to make, he made it up to the Atlantic Series over here. He's an Englishman. He tried to make a career for himself over here, and he's really put an awful lot of effort into trying to create some opportunities for himself in the American Le Mans Series, and I give him a lot of credit for that. He's a great young man, and he's worked so hard to get this opportunity.
And what you mean by that, creating opportunities for himself, you mean he's gone out and found sponsorship dollars.
He has.
Because, you know, it's no dirty little secret, to go racing costs money. There are very few truly professional racing drivers in any of the sports, even up to and including Formula One. Surprising number of Formula One drivers don't get paid or have to bring money to the team, and it's no different outside of the big works efforts here in sports car racing. And Ryan, as you said, he's had to become a sponsorship expert, a marketing expert, and he's worked very hard indeed for that.
Yeah, and he's spent a lot of time over here in the States working initially with Intersport Racing, and over the last 12 months or so with the PR1 Matheson Motorsports team. They're based out in California, and he's just doing everything he can to pull programs together and, you know, find some sponsorship, find other maybe drivers with some money to come along and help out as well.
This is not what Alan McNish wanted to see, of course. He had a big lead over the two Peugeots, having double stinted his second set of Michelin tyres when the Peugeots changed drivers and tyres in their pit stop. It's going to compress the field back together again.
Yeah, just getting back to that again. You know, this is what we talked about, the fact that you talked about the fact that he is double stinting these tyres, and that's exactly what Audi's going to have to do, really, if they're going to have any chance of hanging with the Peugeots. That's the downside of running a 2010 spec car that has been therefore restricted to bring it down to the level, in terms of horsepower at least, maybe if not in terms of pace, because the new cars are pretty quick. But that's the equalization factor the ATO is trying to do to keep all these cars competitive with one another.
Yeah, what we haven't seen yet is whether Peugeot can double stint the tyres, because remember, they changed both of their drivers in those first proper stops. So it might well be that they can still double stint the tyres, and if they do, that's going to be bad news for Alan McNish, currently leading the race. Rick de Bruyne is down in the pits. Well, we'll catch up with Rick in just a few moments. He's down in the 052 pit. One of the cars we saw having problems earlier on. And I should say as well that the Labra competition Corvette is also coming back to pit lane on the end of a tow rope. The IMSA officials taking the opportunity in this full course caution to remove that car from driver's right, just on the exit of turn number 8. Now, look, everybody's going to the right, to our left, driver's right again. They're being pointed that way by the driver of the Jaguar XKR safety car. And once the Bo Barfield, our race director, sees that's done, he will tell the teams to say, right guys, you're behind your class leader, you can go around and rejoin at the back of the crocodile. We want to influence those class battles as little as possible when we have to neutralise the race for safety reasons.
That's right. So all those cars that are running on the right-hand side of the racetrack now they are the ones that would otherwise be disadvantaged. So they are being waved past that safety car to pull around effectively behind their class leader.
Now, this is the pass-by. Once we've had the pit stops, prototypes, GTs coming in on separate laps, we then have the option, and it is an option, it may not need to be done, but there is an option for a wave-by, which then puts the first class leader behind the safety car. That's exactly the same as we've had in the last couple of seasons here in the American Le Mans Series. There's a couple of different rules if we've recently had a full course caution or we're within half an hour of the end of the race. Great crowd here for the 59th annual 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida, and great opportunity for crowds to get right up to the fence line and up close and personal with their favourite stars and cars of world-class sports car racing. More ways than ever, of course, to keep up with the American Le Mans Series. Hello everybody, we can see you waving, yes, with the Turn 10 t-shirt on there, the gentleman in the front, thank you. Turn 10, part of a great community here at Sebring, probably only rivaled by the kind of atmosphere at the Le Mans 24 Hours. Let's remind ourselves then of some of the early highlights with just under an hour and 40 minutes. The start, well, that belonged to Peugeot, but Alan McNish was very quickly on the loud pedal in the yellow trimmed Audi to try and get among the French cars early on and try and disrupt perhaps some of their best laid plan. It looked like it worked early on, but Alan couldn't hold on to second position and had to give it back to his close friend but racing rival Alexander Wurz. As the race progressed in GT, Ollie Gavin had pulled away by a couple of seconds, but by the time we got into lap number 8, the former pole sitter, or the pole sitter should I say, Jimmy Bruni in the AF Corsa 430, remember that's the outgoing car, proved that there's life in the old dog yet, and I mean the car, not Jimmy, retook the lead. Problems for BMW, not a lucky place for them here in recent years, Sebring. The 33 car coming into contact with the 56 of Dirk Werner, pushing that car off the circuit, causing a flat on the restart. After that, Alan McNish again getting up into second place and trying to do a little better than that, but he was rebuffed by the leading Peugeot, knocked him back down into third position at that point. Drive-through penalty for PJ Jones in the Jaguar for avoidable contact with, yep, you guessed it, the same BMW. And then Audi, difficult problems for Mike Rockenfeller, not one but two left rear punctures. He's back out on the circuit but laps down. Tricky pit strategy by Alan McNish, double stinting his tyres, means that as of now, with 46 laps completed, he leads behind the safety car. In P2, Luis Diaz for Level 5 Motorsports, Johnny Molam leads Prototype Challenge, Jamie Mello in GT, and Craig Stanton for Magnus Racing in GTC. Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida.
Hi, I'm Vic Elford, and together with my French co-driver Gerard Larousse, we won the Sebring 12 Hours of 1971, driving a Porsche 917. Welcome to this year's Sebring event, and enjoy the race with ESPN ABC.
There was a town held captive by an evil gas pump. It fed on people's hard-earned money. But along came the Michelin Man, who reminded them the right tire changes everything. And with fuel-efficient tires in place, that evil gas pump wasn't so evil anymore. Michelin Energy Saver AS tires can help save up to 109 gallons of fuel. Michelin, a better way forward.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G Oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
Well, the one thing you can pretty much count on here at Sebring in recent years, although those of you who have longer memories back to, say, 1965 may disagree, but we've had pretty decent weather in the 13 years of the American Le Mans Series here at Sebring. Hello there, I'm John Hindhaugh, and together with Jeremy Shaw, we're entering a brave new digital era with ESPN3.com, talking to a worldwide sports car audience via the internet and AmericanLeMans.com. And it's a nice squaring the circle for me, having been here in 1999 when we put the race on the web for the very first time. And I can't remember being terribly bored at any time during those 12 hours over the last 13 years, and certainly already we've had plenty of activity. I think we've probably repaid admission price already in the first 1 hour and 44 minutes. Jeremy Shaw.
It's been fascinating, hasn't it? And we've got battles again developing now in all of the classes. Interestingly, we got. It's funny how over the last 20 minutes or so, the classes have sort of separated themselves. They were sort of jumbled up early on, as we see the track cleaner. They're running.
Now that's
ahead.
a very good idea.
Yeah, it is actually, because a lot of marbles out there with 56 cars, 55 cars we had starting the race. So there's a fair bit of rubber out there, so that's a very good move. But we've got the P1 cars filling the first 8 positions. Then Luis Diaz now leads in P2, just ahead of Lucas Ordonez in the Oracle Nissan, and then in third place is Scott Tucker in the second of the level 5 cars, and those 3 cars now are back on the same lap as each other, so that's good news. Klaus Graf, we saw the problem, we don't know what the problem was. We lost a couple of laps in that first round of pit stops after he'd taken over from Greg Pickett in the Muscle Milk Saito Sport Lola Aston Martin. And then in 13th place, the best of the LMPC cars. That is, again, Johnny Mollum having elected not to make a pit stop in the first round
that's paid off.
of stops. So that certainly has moved him up to the front. And running in second place now for Intersport Racing is Rusty Mitchell, who's making his sports car debut. He's done the last 3 years in Star Mazda from Texas. He's doing a nice job. And then in third place now in LMP Challenge is the 005 car, the core Autosport car of Jonathan Bennett.
Just on board there with Jörg Bergmeister in the 5th place GT car. That is Olivier Beretta. He's a little further up the field because he's in second behind Jamie Mello in the 062 Ferrari 458 Italia. So it's Risi 062 from Ollie Gavin in the 04 Corvette. Back to pit stops, and Jamie is down there.
The number 2 Audi is on pit road. Alan McNish getting out of the car, helping his teammate Tom Christensen get strapped in and buckled in. The fuel has already gone in. They only needed a splash. Now that's on for the tires. 4 new tires on, and Tom Christensen is out and underway.
Now that is a very, very interesting tactical choice. Oh, and they're being held at the pit lane exit, but just gets out as the field goes through. That was nearly a tactical blunder there by Audi, and you don't say that very often. Don't understand why they did that particularly, because McNish was, unless there was a problem with the tyres, McNish didn't need a full fuel load, so therefore adding the tyre stop onto that meant that they were not quite having Tom in the car as they finished the stop.
Yeah, it's certainly put them behind the 8 ball a little bit here. They're going to go back to the back of the pack here with the leaders not coming onto pit lane. But again, we've got the fact that they are running a smaller fuel tank this year means they are going to have to stop more frequently than they would otherwise have done. So they're very much on the back foot, and I feel this is probably an opportunity for them to, instead of running for the first beginning of the race to run sort of 2.5 stints with the car, they can now put a fresh set of tyres on, get Tom Christensen out there, and he can now run at least a couple of stints from here. So I think in the short term it's certainly not particularly good news, but I think probably looking ahead down the road, not a bad strategy to play, particularly with they had that problem with the other car.
Tom Christensen, the most successful driver ever here with 5 victories. Very nearly pulled off 3 in a row in 99 in the BMW and then 2000 and 2001 with Audi. But he blew the pit lane speed limit, if I remember rightly, in the last hour or so of the race and was very unhappy with himself. I'll stand to be corrected by Charles Dressing, but I think that it's only Phil Hill and Olivier Jean-de-Bian who've won 3 overall on the trot here at Sebring. Hindhoff's memory is not what it was. And before anybody says, yeah, I probably was around when that last happened. We've got some GT pit stops coming this time, and you can stop laughing as well, Mr. Shaw. We've got some GT pit stops coming around shortly, so expect to see the production-based cars peeled off into the pits.
Lucas Luhr actually, I guess, won 4 in a row, but that was in GT class, wasn't it? Earlier on in
absolutely.
This decade, last decade.
Here they come into the pit lane. Let's head down to our pit lane team. Kelly, Jamie and Rick Tebrew.
As we wait for the Racing Ferrari that's leading this GT category to make its way into its pit stop, we're expecting a driver change there. Tony Villinger is going to take over driving duties for Jamie Mello. They're also going to switch from their medium compound tires to the hard compound tires. And just 2 pit stalls behind them will be the AF Corsa Ferrari that set the pole. They will also have a driver change with Giancarlo Fisicelli taking over those duties.
Down here at the Corvette, the OFAR car, they give him all the guidance coming in, give him all the reminders so that he's as calm as possible. The driver, Oliver Gavin, gets out. Jan Magnussen getting into the car. So far, everything is going smoothly, but right now, remember, it is just fuel. Once the fuel is done, then they'll start, which the fuel should end any second now, and then they're going to start working on the tires. So now, fuel's done, they're working on the tires, then the radio, we're not talking about any major changes. The driver's waving me out of the way, and I'm going to move on so he can get out of here.
Both Corvettes and both Ferraris, and it is the racing car. Oh, the BMW gets out faster than everybody there. That's a super stop by Rahal Letterman team, or BMW Motorsport as they're entered this weekend. It's the Rahal Letterman Lanigan team. That is a top quality effort in the pit lane. Not many people beat the yellow cars of Pratt and Miller. Those guys were twice champions in the ALMS pit stop competition a few years ago. And that is a great turnaround for the 55 car that did have Dirk Werner on board. They'll have switched drivers in that pit stop, and we'll find out who got in, because Jamie Howe was watching that super quick stop.
I was, and this is something that this team has rehearsed. They knew that last year the advantage was to Corvette in the pit stops. This year, they think that they have it. Bill Oberlin's now behind the wheel, ready to do battle. The number 45, Flying Lizard Motorsports Porsche, also in pit lane, and Patrick Long now behind the wheel of that one.
Bill Oberlin, one of the real poster children for the American Le Mans series. You'd probably say the same for Pat Long. These guys have got road racing in their blood, American drivers, and Bill and BMW. The first time I came to America in 1998, I went out to Laguna Seca and saw Bill winning a BMW V8 powered prototype at Laguna Seca in the American Sports Car Championship. It's on board with the 002 Extreme Speeds Motorsports Ferrari 458. Now, don't forget, see, it's not always been kind to people, Sebring, a very, very difficult racetrack. If Le Mans is a hard mistress, well, then Sebring is just brutal. And if there's anything going to work loose, it will do. And sometimes it's got catastrophic consequences, as Scott Sharp knows.
Debut race for us last year as a team, really going pretty well. 4th place, we're running a time of 2 hours to go, trying to catch 3rd. And all of a sudden, I look at my left mirror and, wow, it's glowing. Look at my right mirror, it's glowing. I'm like, wow, I'm on fire. This isn't good. So I just stood on the gas, just sort of an inclination, flat out all the way down the back straightaway. And in reality, I guess that ended up being good because the wind and the air just kept the fire to the back. Fortunately, all the metal, the aluminum didn't burn long enough to really have any damage. The tail light section, which is all carbon fiber or plastic, that all melted. So expensive, but easily replaceable, and luckily nothing permanent. And very fortunately, nobody hurt.
Down to the pits, Rick DeBrule is with Corvette Racing and Ollie Gavin.
Yeah, standing by with Oliver Gavin. Let's talk first about how the car is doing. Are you happy with it? Any issues at all?
Oh, it's going pretty well. I mean, it's tough out there. It's a tight battle between the Ferrari and the BMW and us, and you know, it was touch and go in the traffic, and the track is still very, very greasy and inconsistent at times with the sand on it. But you know, we're fighting, and we're in there for the battle, and we're hanging in there, and proud to be part of this Corvette racing team. And the Corvette C6R is performing very, very well. We just got to work with Michelin with the tyres, and just get the right compound for us at this right time. Jan's now taken over, and he's going to be driving for the next hour or so. Then Richard will be in, and then I'll be back in again. But I know by the time I get back in, I'm sure that a few things might have changed. But good battle with Jamie in the Ferrari. Reminded me a little bit of Le Mans from last year, where we were backwards and forwards for a good hour or so. Much the same this time.
Not bad, considering I'm sweating and he's not. Jamie's with Alan McNish.
Alan McNish also not sweating. Looks like he didn't even drive the first stint of the race, but he did, and he double stinted nonetheless. Alan, how is the track right now?
Track's really slippery, Jamie. It's there's a lot of sand just down at the hairpin and places like that. The tyres pick them up and you slip it around for a couple of laps to clean them again, and then you get back to the hairpin. But all in all, I think it's the same for everybody. Everyone's struggling a bit with maybe with the temperature as well, but the racing's close. It's tight at the front, and we're in the fight.
Talk about that close action. It seems like it's a little too close for this early in a 12-hour race. Are you surprised by that?
No, it's never too close. There's still about a few inches between the cars. It's good. Obviously, we've raced against the Peugeot guys and also the others in the pit lane quite often, so we know where the limits are. But, yeah, it is early in the race, but you've got to be in it to win it. And so from that point of view, for me, it starts when the flag goes up.
Audi is definitely always in it to win it. Kelly's down with another team.
With Jamie MUELLER, who climbed out of his Ferrari leading this race, and with so many question marks about the 458, you, if anybody, knows what it takes to win here at Sebring. Does this car?
Well, the only thing I can tell you, we are working pretty hard to make this car fast and consistent, and yeah, it's not the way I would like to have, but I think it's still a good car to drive, easy to drive, and I could keep the same lap time as the others, so a little bit better on the traffic, so that's why I could keep the gap between me and Corvette. So yeah, so looking for the end of the race, but it's gonna be hard, but never give up.
It's such a long race, but this started out with quite an intense battle between a group of you. Were you surprised to see, you know, that competition out there right away?
Yeah, I mean, that's Sebring, that's ALMS, so this championship is just amazing, and we are struggling a little bit on the straight line, but like I said, I think we need to keep the car on the track and see what's going to happen at the end.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
Got to tell you that I have never seen three drivers look so cool, calm and collected as we've just seen. I just said to Jeremy while those interviews were going on, particularly with Ollie Gavin, you've been sitting in a GT car with an engine in front of you for 2 hours, with all the heat we've got here. Even if you just sat there, I would have looked worse than he did. And he's been pedaling it around like the clappers as well. McNish looking, I think, as well, very relaxed, very confident. And Jamie MUELLER, notwithstanding the problems that those guys have had getting the car, really kind of, you know, looking, I think, like this, it's almost like they're waiting, is something going to happen or not? Now, we talked to Alan McNish from the number 2 Audi there. The number 1 car, which had its problems earlier on, also came into the pit lane. Jamie, what happened with the number 1 Audi?
The number 1 Audi took on some fuel. They didn't need much, but they did need a little bit of a splash. The crew also took the time to walk around the car, make sure everything still seemed to be okay, and it did. But let's talk about the strategy on the number 2 machine. We saw Alan McNish, he got out of the car. The team did take some new tires. Now, on their last green pit stop, they did not take tires. So now that they know for the rest of the race that the tires can double sit, but they think that their advantage is going to be in that the Peugeot did not take any tires. So that means that when they were out running under green flag conditions, the tires were hot. Now under caution, they're going to soak up a whole bunch of the rubber and the debris that's out on the racetrack, and they're going to be junk when they go back to green. But the Audis are on fresh tires. And down to Kelly.
Jamie, the Muscle Milk Aston Martin also came in, and they just got a top off on their fuel. Now, you'll remember on their previous stop when they made that driver change and Klaus Groff got behind the wheel, they had some problems. Well, it turns out they couldn't get the motor back started. They said it got a little bit hot. You could see the frustration on Greg Pickett's face as they're counting on being able to make up time in the pits to compensate for the lack of speed on the track against those diesels. So disappointing, but they're trying to switch up their strategy a little bit, decided to come on in and top it off and switch things up a bit.
That's very interesting, Kelly. Thank you, ladies, down there in the pit lane. That is not the first time that customer-run Aston Martins with a V12, production-based engine, of course, have suffered from hot restart problems. I think that's a problem they thought they'd cleared up.